Blessed love, my Lord and Empress. Give thanks and praise for life, health, and strength. Give thanks for the mighty life giver, Selassie, Jah, Rastafari. This is the African Liberation Network. I'm the host, Honorable Prophet Daniel, and this is the Bobo Ashanti International Study Group. Today's topic is the Melchizedek order. And at this time, I will turn it over to the Honorable Leading Priest to say a prayer and open the program, my Lord.
Greetings, everyone. Welcome once again. Bless the Lord.
Oh, priest, unmute, my Lord, sorry. Give thanks.
Yes, as I said again, welcome everyone to another sitting of the study group. Bless the Lord, O my soul, and all that is within I. Bless and I, Father's holy name. Most High, Holy Emmanuel I, Selassie,
Jah,
Rasta. Yes, we ask Father to sit with us this day and to edify us, with good thoughts, clear our minds, bring clarity with the information that we're about to share. Empower I and I with truth and knowledge. This we ask in his holy and gracious and glorified name. King Emmanuel VII. Down here.
God, Jah, Rasta.
Bless God. My Lord, Empress.
Yes, if you can, priest, you could go forward with the moment of silence,
Yes, family, as we have just lost, a dear couple. Well, I don't know, I think the virgin might have survived, but we have lost a dear sister in South Africa today. And in honor of, their life, I would say, I and I will ask for a moment of silence, paying tribute to the family, and condolences for their loss. A moment of silence, please. Jah, Rastafari. Yes, my Lord, tragic moment, before we even start and get into our session. Tragic moment, these kind of things are continuously plaguing I and I, as righteous people living in such a wicked, violent world. Like them say, a world shaped in iniquity and sin, So this is a time when the brotherhood and the sisterhood of, Rastafari, of Christ, of the Black Christ, King Emmanuel, is primary, to I and I survival, collective security, with integrity, my Lord and Empress. Yes, our topic today is Melchizedek. We will be unpacking this topic not from so much of a religious, scholarly point of view, but more from the seekers of knowledge and truth point of view. What do I mean? We are not here to convert. We are not trying to change anybody's views on how they see things. We're not here to change anything that the Black Christ, put indelible in place. All we are here to do is to present information not commonly available and a topic that is not discussed in any depth in our community, what needs to be. With that said, Melchizedek, is this about?
Pardon. The Empress is going to sing before we go too far into it, so it's not interrupted, yeah? So give us a moment, Empress Miriam.
Yes, my Lord.
Give thanks for life, Honorable.
Majesty.
We will continue with this, our opening hymn number 680 from the Sacred Songs and Solos. Stand up for Negus, these soldiers of your throne. Press whenever you're ready.
Yes, my Lord. Honorable Prophet Daniel, we go through it one time, and the last verse is the coming down verse, okay?
All right.
Okay, Majesty.
Glorify.
Yes, I give thanks and praises to the Most High God, Jah, Rastafari. Go ahead, my Lord.
Stand up for Negus, ye soldiers of your throne.
Stand up for Negus, the soldiers at your throne.
Lift high his royal banner.
Lift high your royal banner.
It must not suffer loss.
Must not suffer loss.
From victory unto victory.
From victory unto victory.
Jah army shall he lead.
Jah army shall he lead.
Till every foe is vanquished.
Every foe is bound.
And Christ is Lord indeed.
And Christ is our Lord indeed.
Stand up for Negus.
Stand up for Negus.
These soldiers of your throne.
Soldiers of your throne.
Lift high your royal banner.
High the royal banner.
It must not suffer
It
loss.
must not suffer loss.
Stand up for Negus.
Stand up for Negus.
The trumpet call obey.
The trumpet calls obey.
Forth to the mighty conflict.
To the mighty conflict.
In this Jah glorious day.
In this our glorious day.
Ye that men now serve him.
To hear that man now serve him.
Against unnumbered foes.
Against unnumbered foes.
Let courage rise with danger.
Let courage rise with danger.
And strength to strength oppose.
And strength to strength oppose.
Stand up for Negus.
Stand up for Negus.
Ye soldiers of your throne.
Ye soldiers of your throne.
Lift high your royal banner.
Lift high your royal banner.
It must not suffer loss.
It must not suffer loss.
Stand up for Negus.
Stand up for Negus.
Stand in your strength alone.
Stand him that a strength alone.
The arm of flesh will fail you.
The arm of flesh will fail you.
Ye dare not trust your own.
They dare not trust our home.
Put on the gospel armor.
Put on the gospel armor.
And watching unto prayer.
And watching unto prayer.
Where duty calls or danger.
Where duty calls it danger.
Be never wanting there.
We never wanted them.
Stand up for niggas.
Stand up for niggas.
Ye soldiers of Jah
We soldiers of Jah throne.
lift high Jah royal banner.
Jah royal band.
It must not suffer loss.
They must not suffer loss.
For us. Chorus. Stand up for niggas.
Stand up for niggas.
Soldiers of your throne.
Soldiers of Jah throne.
Lift high Jah royal banner.
Lift high Jah royal banner.
It must not suffer loss.
Must not suffer loss.
Stand up for niggas.
Stand up for niggas.
The strife will not be long.
The strife will not be long.
This day the noise of battle.
This day the noise of battle.
The next the victor's song.
The next the victor's strong.
To us that overcometh.
To us that overcome.
A crown of life shall be.
A crown of life shall be.
Be with the King of glory.
Be with the King of glory.
Shall reign eternally.
Shall reign eternally.
Stand up for niggas coming down.
Stand up for me.
Ye soldiers of your throne.
Soldiers of that throne.
Lift high Jah royal banner.
Lift high Jah royal banner.
It must not suffer loss.
They must not suffer loss. See now, holy Mount Zion, 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 I, Lord, holy Mount Zion, Zion, earthquake God, Jah Rastafari, Selah,
Selassie, Jah Rastafari.
Cut and clear that, cut and clear, move all barriers in high and low places, most high, Selassie, Jah Rastafari. My Lord and Empress, blessed Lord.
Give thanks, Mama Maisie.
Bless him.
Yes, I. Honorable Priest Dougie, my Lord, floor is yours. Introduction.
Yes, family, listeners, participants. Yeah, topic is Melchizedek, the high priest. Like I was saying, we are not gonna a religious point of view, so much so, more just presenting knowledge that was unfolded in our research, so that we as a community can have a better understanding of our liberty and be able to present it to the upcoming generation more clearer than we received it. Because there has been so many consistencies without many misconceptions, people people trying to interpret mythology, allegory, and getting the full view because lack of information. So the team has gone and unfolded as much information as we could, and we'll be presenting it this evening. You know, give thanks for all who are here, and hopefully the journey, the Sankofa, will be an edifying one. Melchizedek, the king of Salem, meaning
go through, priest.
Yeah, king of righteousness, king of peace. It is Melchizedek who established the first priesthood order or priestly order. So he's a valid person in the faith-based department. As we will try to share now information coming from the origins of Melchizedek. Also looking at correlation with other faiths that have, you know, inscribed to the concept of Melchizedek as well. You know, we'll also try to identify the source of the information, you know, because all three religions, as they are established today, whether it is Christianity, Judaism, or the Muslim faith, are based on, you know, that same foundation of give thanks.
Give thanks, my Lord. Yes, I. So, you know, the first part of our reasoning today is about the origin, you know, establishing the origin of the name Melchizedek. As he just said, you know, Melchizedek means king of Salem, king of peace, king of righteousness. Melchi, you know, it's that term is a Hebrew term. Melchi meaning king, and Zedek, righteousness. As we know, Salem means peace, and even in Amharic, Salem is peace, you know. So the king of peace. This Hebrew term is a later rendition of this concept, you know, because the individual himself, King Emmanuel, said that he was first Christ, you know, and even as we'll get into, say, the scriptures and things, Melchizedek existed before there was a Levitical priesthood. So the earlier form of a high priest.
Prophet Daniel, please, before you go on, could you announce to the audience to monitor their microphones because we're having too much feedback? If they could turn off their phones so that you can speak, please.
Give thanks, my Lord. Yeah, everybody, you know, who's in the Zoom meeting, if you could keep your microphone muted until you're actually speaking, that would probably help so we don't have background noise. But yeah, to continue, the earlier concept of a high priest, though, will come from the Kemetic culture. And that name associated with that concept is Jehuti, also known as Tehuti, also known as Thoth. And, you know, I'll show a picture of who I'm talking about here. Give me 1 second, I'll put it on the screen for all to see. All right, so here on the screen, we have what the Kemetic people had as their high priest. Now, the timeline now of this concept of Jehuti is going to date back all the way to, it says, the oldest form of Jehuti's name appears in Old Kingdom sources as DJHWT, because in Kemetic culture, they didn't really use the vowels like that in their writing. And in the Middle Kingdom sources, it was DJHWTJ. His name could be written either phonetically or symbolically as an ibis on a perch. In later periods, the latter was the more commonly occurring form. In Sahidic Coptic, his name appears as Thoot, Thoowt. And from this is ultimately derived the Greek form of his name, Thoth, by which he is more commonly known today. Out of respect for my father, however, I retain and use his original Kemetic name. Many scholars feel that Jehuti is a form of DHWT or a dweller in DHWT. There is, however, no attested region, town, or place name called DHWT. So then, if one argues that DHWT is perhaps not a place name, one still runs into the fact that there is no known Kemetic substantive DHWT from which a Nisbi form may be derived. Be that as it may, many academics have tried their best to come up with a possible derivation, I don't know if I said that right, of the name Jehuti. So that's, dealing with the name. The worship or reverence of Tehuti or Thoth began in Lower Egypt, most likely in the pre-dynastic period, around between 6,000 and 3150 BCE, before the Common Era. So all the way as far back as 6,000 years before the Common Era, which is about 8,000 plus years from today, and continued through the Ptolemaic period, which is 323 to 30 BCE. So right before, right before the Common Era, before, like zero. The last dynastic era of Kemetic history, making Thoth's veneration as among the longest of the Egyptian or Kemetic gods or any deity from any civilization. So he's one of the earliest individuals that was revered. Pardon me one second. The 9 principles of Tehuti: the principle of mentalism, the all is mind, the universe is mental. 2, the principle of correspondence, as above, so below, as below, so above, as we've heard before. Pardon me, I'm gonna put this on the screen for ones and ones to follow along, or maybe not. Never mind, but here I will put this on the screen in 1 sec. All right. The number 3, the principle of vibration. Nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates, everything has energy. Number 4, the principle of polarity. Everything is dual. Everything has poles. Everything has its pair of opposites. Opposites are identical in nature, but different in degree. Number 5, the principle of gender. Gender is in everything. Everything has masculine and feminine principle. 6, the principle of rhythm. Everything flows out and in. Everything has its tides. All things rise and fall. The principle of causality. Everything has cause and effect. Pardon me. Every cause has its effect. Every effect has its cause. Number 8, the principle of growth and creation. Growth is a manifestation of size altering from one point in time and space to another. Creation is a manifestation of beginning. The principle of breathing. Everything appears to be breathing inward and outward. This appears to be the principle by which one acknowledges life. True life existed before the breath or the necessity to breathe to exist. So those are the 9 principles of Jehuti. Jehuti was the high priest, the law keeper. His feminine complement was Ma'at, as we've heard of Ma'at, the 42 laws of Ma'at, and she's the female balance of the law keeper. He was represented by the ibis bird, as you could see in the picture I had before, the bird with the long curved beak, that's the ibis. The ibis symbolizes knowledge, science, magic, justice, wisdom, purity, grace, and mystery, allegorical as well towards peace, wisdom, and love. All right, so that's just some background information on the character known as Thoth. Some say that he was the god of the moon and of wisdom and learning, usually represented as having the head and neck of an ibis. So with that, then I'll, turn the floor over to Honorable Priest Dougie to give us some information about the concept of Melchizedek and some of the mythology around Melchizedek, my Lord.
Yeah, give thanks, Prophet Daniel. Yeah, man. So he had set the foundation of the reasoning there. The Melchizedek, the person. There is so much mysticism surrounding Melchizedek as a person to really define the origins and source of the information. I and I have gone as far back as the Dead Sea Scrolls. There's also another set of texts that were discovered in early Egypt called the Bruce Codex that has some information on Melchizedek. But when we look at it, scholars and religious sages have defined it more as an ideal and a value system more than a person with an ego and a spirit. Now, with that said, an ideal is a concept that can be embraced by others, understood by others. It can be transferred then, it's transferable, okay? The priesthood order itself, Melchizedek, the Melchizedek priesthood order, is not an order that is defined by paternal bloodline. It is defined by an oath. And being that it is defined by an oath, anyone that aspires to the service of the Almighty and to the service of humanity can apply themselves to achieving the understanding of the order of Melchizedek and become proficient in such order. Now, Melchizedek as a God figure is seen as someone that is, or an energy that leads the army of God against darkness. That means against the darkness of evil, of wickedness. So the whole concept of Melchizedek, or the ideal of Melchizedek, the value system that Melchizedek brings to humanity, is to guide us forward to that light, that light of truth. It is said that, or it is written that Melchizedek established the first priesthood order, not the Levitical order, but the first priesthood order was established on Melchizedek. Now, that being said, the first set of priests were volunteers. They volunteered their services. It went down the line until it got to Abraham. Then it went down the line. Moses embraced it and gave it to Aaron. Aaron, being a devout seeker of knowledge, established an order, an offshoot of the Melchizedek order from his bloodline. That means his seeds took on the priestly order, and they championed the area of purification, atonement, conflict resolution, they would call it in today's world, where the Levitical priest is masters of ceremony, sacrificing animals, for sins and infirmities and indiscretions and so forth and so on. While the Melchizedek priests, they don't dwell in the blood sacrifice, and they don't deal in the water baptism. Melchizedek is known as the holder of the holy fire. His baptism, his process of baptizing is about the fire, purifying you in such a way, because of the level of infirmity that is in ones and ones. It needs more than just a water baptism. The symbolism of what that water baptism stands for. See, the fire baptism is more a depth of purification. It cleanses you of all infirmities, in which now you can now be open to receiving new vibration, new waves of current and information flowing in, and you can assess it, you can embrace it, you can live it, because you have purged out that other stuff that was clogging you up. It's just like when you're purging out the colon and the intestine, when you take a purge, you empty out the system, so the system is prepared now to receive new nutrients and new vitamins to rejuvenate it. It's the same process. So I'm saying all that to say, Melchizedek, the order, is more about the principles and the discipline, within the priesthood order, than it is about an individual person. That's the first understanding that we want to establish here before we go forward. Now, the second part of the presentation is about the mysticism, the myths that surround Melchizedek. How did he come into being? How did he get the title that he has, without father, without mother, without beginning of days or ending of time? How does that apply to a human? How is that relevant to I and I understanding the concept of Melchizedek? Well, we have to look at the history now. Melchizedek was born from a couple, Ner, and let me pronounce it properly, Sophonim, or also known as Sopanima. Sophonim or Sopanima. Okay. Now, they were up in age when she conceived the child. Now, Ner is also Noah's brother, Noah's sibling, as the genealogy goes in the biblical chronology. Ner is married to Sophonim. They were up in age, and Sophonim found that she was pregnant, which was a mystery to her. So, because she didn't know how she conceived this child, according to the story now, according to the allegory, she didn't know how she conceived this child. I guess they are alluding to the what they call the Immaculate Conception. Okay, so she hid it from Ner for a couple months until he found out shortly before she gave birth. When he found out, he went to check her and confronted her and realized it was true, and him cuss her out, using my terms. He gave her choice words, accusing her of infidelity and so forth. And she had to rebut him and let him know, no, look at you and I, we're up in age. You know, I had thought that I was past that stage of conceiving and all of that. And I have never laid with anyone. You and I haven't laid in a period of time. I just found that this was a miraculous happening. You know, as a man, I guess at first he never embraced it. You know, he felt hurt and whatever. Shortly thereafter, she died. She died in childbirth. The child wasn't even born. Now, the story goes that Noah and Ner went now to deal with the body, to prepare it for burial. And because remember, in those days, they didn't have the ability to take the child from the mother after the mother passed. That wasn't a practice back then. So even though the fetus could have been saved in modern world, that fetus was, to them, dead with the mother. Okay? So they went to retrieve the body to prepare it for burial. And when they went into the room where it was, they found a child, not a baby infant, but a fully, matured child in clothes. And the child spoke to them and blessed them according to the allegory. And in blessing them, they were astounded and they thought that, well, people are going to think it's sorcery and all kind of things. So they hid the child from the public and so on and so forth. So the story goes on. But that is the mystery behind the birth of Melchizedek and the notion that he came into life without the conception, the normal procreation act. Okay, so by even the account that is given, you can know it's allegorical, or you can determine that it's allegorical. Someone conceiving, there are those that believe in these miracles, but like Prophet Daniel established before, so above, so below. What we see is what we have to define and what we know. We know that a child is born from the procreation act of a father and mother. Okay, so being that she was conceived a child, there had to be an act somewhere if it was something real, factual. See? And then now the fact that the child is born and it's bigger than it's supposed to be, fully clothed and able to speak and bless the ones them, gives another area of inconsistency, which people in the faith-based department would want to apply miracles to that, understanding. That's the allegory and the mystery behind the foundation of Melchizedek. Give thanks.
Give thanks, Priest Dougie. Gonna forward on to Honorable Prophet Iko to give us some information about Enoch and his connection to Melchizedek.
Blessed love, my Lord.
Yes, my Lord. Blessed love.
Yes, I. So from the research I've done and the studies I've done as far as the history of the Enoch, for one, was a high-ranking official within the courts of Queen Candace of Ethiopia. And for Enoch, as it is described, he's castrated so that he doesn't have any sexual dealings with the royal courts or whatnot. So he's sometimes not able to go to the temples and monasteries and things like that to study the word or the gospel or the word of the Lord. So he has to do that on his own. So he asked the queen, could he travel to Israel at a time to, praise the Lord. So as he travels to Israel, he's on his way, traveling through the desert. And at the same time, the Spirit of the Lord takes up on Philip and tells him to go to this place, a crossroad in between Jerusalem and Gaza. Not knowing why, he just gets up and go. And at the same time, he meets the Enoch, the Ethiopian Enoch, traveling. But he's sitting at the time in his chariot reading the book of Isaiah, and they say it's chapter 53. And he sees himself within the scripture that he's reading, so he can't believe it. And, you know, I guess he don't have a good understanding of what he's reading. So at that time, Philip, you know, comes up to the Enoch, and the Enoch, and asks the Enoch, did he know what he's reading? So the Enoch asked him, how could he, you know, unless someone guides him or shows him or, you know, gives him the understanding of what he's reading. So Philip, you know, rebuttals and tells him, you know, the scripture is talking about or prophesying the Lord, as some would say, Jesus Christ, Jesus Christ, Iestos Christos, you know, in whatever term you want to use. So from he telling them that, he became a believer and started to rejoice. And as they travel and come across a body of water, he asked them to baptize them. And so he baptized them. And some theologians or scholars would say that, you know, Philip went on to reason on a few scriptures on, which is Isaiah chapter 56, where he tells them, where it says, to the eunuchs who keep my Sabbaths, who choose what pleases me and holds fast to my covenant, to them I will give within my temple and its walls a memorial and a name better than sons and daughters. I will give them an everlasting name that will endure forever. So correlating that with Melchizedek, which is an order that's forever, you know, and one of the most important tenets of the Melchizedek order is keeping the Sabbath, being a Sabbath keeper. You know, I could see that scripture being one that Philip may point out to the eunuch. And that kind of, compares the eunuch with Melchizedek with keeping the Sabbath and having an everlasting name, which is a promise from the Almighty. So that's my take on the eunuch, the Ethiopian eunuch, and his correlation with Melchizedek. Blessed love.
Give thanks, my Lord. Yes, I. So that was the eunuch of the New Testament. Our brethren, Prophet Jasik, was going to help us with some, you know, biblical references. He's not here with us at the moment, but we do know that the first mention of Melchizedek is when he met Abraham after the slaughter of the kings.
Genesis.
Say, my Lord?
Genesis. Yeah, in Genesis, yeah.
Is that what I said?
No, I said in Genesis. You're referring to that you know, chapter in Genesis. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull it up right now so I can read it and be, you know, specific as possible. Does anyone know the exact scripture? Anyone on the line?
Genesis, what is it? That's bad.
It's all right. We can move on. You know, if we get it, we'll come back to it. I would ask Honorable Prophet Jawanza to give us some, you know, astrology or astronomy, astronomical connection with Enoch and pardon me, not Enoch, Melchizedek, And you can do what you do, my Lord, your explanation. We're talking about the origin right now of Melchizedek, my Lord. Prophet Jawans, are you there, my Lord? All right, he's away from his computer. Well, until he comes back.
My Lord, I want to
Yes,
say
sir.
Genesis 14.
14, give thanks. Genesis 14. Yeah.
Where you say 10.
Yes, sir. I'll start with 7. I'll start with 17. It says, and the king of Sodom went out to meet him after his return from the slaughter of Kedor Laomer, and of the kings that were with him at the valley of Shavi, which is the king's dale. And Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought forth bread and wine. And he was the priest of the Most High God. And he blessed him and said, blessed be Abram of the Most High God, possessor of heaven and earth. And blessed be the Most High God, which hath delivered thine enemies into thy hand. And he gave him tithes of all. And the king of Sodom said unto Abram, give me the persons and take the goods to thyself. And Abram said to the king of Sodom, I have lifted up mine hand unto the Lord, the Most High God, the possessor of heaven and earth, that I will not take from a thread even to a shoe latchet, and that I will not take anything that is thine, lest thou shouldest say, I have made Abram rich, save only that which the young men have eaten, and the portion of the men which went with me at Aner, Eshcol, and Mamre, let them take their portion. So that's the earliest mention of Melchizedek, that he was already a king priest at this time, which, the word Melchizedek, again, Melchi, meaning king, Sadek, meaning righteousness. And that those two words also insinuate that he is a king, but also a priest, being that he's a righteous man. And so he already had a kingdom. Melchizedek offered a tenth of what he had to Abraham after Abraham defeated his enemies.
The other way around.
Pardon me. Yes, give thanks for the correction. No. Melchizedek, Abraham gave
Melchizedek 1/10 of yes.
Of his spoil.
Of his spoil.
Okay,
Yeah, man, Abraham gave Melchizedek 1/10.
Give thanks for the correction, my Lord and Empress.
Yes, sir.
Right. Yeah, the Bible is not my strong point, and I don't really claim it, but our brethren that was going to do that part is not here. So give thanks for the support. Honorable Prophet Jawanza, my Lord, you ready?
Yes, my Lord, give thanks, for the Zoom meeting. Yes, give thanks for our life, health and strength all the time. Give thanks to the mighty life giver and the keeper of life, King Emmanuel Charles Edwards the seventh, the 7, I just wanted to touch upon just the biblical part of Melchizedek, because that's where the name comes from. He being the king of Salem. Salem is like the same Jerusalem, right? If I'm right, because Salem is like meaning peace, king of peace. So we know King Emmanuel is like our balanced ruler. That's how we watch it. He wasn't one that was on the battlefield fighting in that way, although we know we always on the battlefield on a spiritual level. But the physical aspect of, we don't support that, the violence and these things, So we know that what the king of peace really means to me, in my level of understanding. So on an astronomical level now, And historically the brother, I wasn't there, but I heard the brother, the ending of the brother's conclusion with the whole aspect with Tahuti. And Tahuti is also, if you study the character Tahuti, I just want to give the history and everything so I could connect it with the astronomy. So ancient Melchizedek is the king of peace in the Bible, which we see as King Emmanuel, which is a balanced ruler. You know, the Huti or Tahuti, the character from Kemetic, also from Asia too. If you study him, you know, he's all around, you know. Even the Greeks claim Tahuti as a character that was there in that, you know. But Tahuti could be seen with that the scale also, just like what this maps, which is also on an astronomical level now. We have, like in Revelation 12 speaks about the woman clothed with the sun, and should have the moon and the sun under.
The brethren's connection
Technical
dropped.
difficulties.
Yeah, I think his connection dropped there.
It looks like my frequency is not that good.
Yeah, you're going and coming.
Well, we can hear you right now.
You could hear me, my lord?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Well, it seems like he's having some real difficulties.
Yes, sir, Honorable. I think the Revelation 5 is something we're all familiar with the character sitting on the phone and with internet problems. Let me see if I could relocate myself. Let me try and relocate myself.
We're hearing you clearly right now.
Just a general problem. I don't think he's even him.
Trying to relocate myself to see if I could go closer to the internet. Yes, just by the time.
We're hearing you good now.
You hear me good? Yeah, I had to go a little close to the. Yes, Honorable. So I was saying we're all familiar with the Revelations 5, speaking of the root of David and the one sitting on the throne, and we are aware of the one taking the book from the other one, and you know it's like one representing King David, which is Selassie to us, and King Emmanuel, which is the other character. Now in Revelation 12, I think it speaks of the sun and the moon being under some the woman's feet, which is like an astronomical story, astrological story, with the woman lying on her back, which is Virgo, right? Which is after the line of Judah, which is what we call Leo, the Leo constellation, which is the lion. After the Leo is Virgo, and then after Virgo we have that constellation which is called Libra, which is the scale, right? That's why I pointed out in the group recently, Michael the Archangel, because Michael the Archangel, if studied properly throughout the theological understanding, Michael also represents the Christ, which is the balanced ruler. You could see Michael, pictures of Michael with the scale also, right? So the two characters there, like we have the sun, and it's just like the moon and the lady. And then we have Leo. So it's like Leo is like father. Virgo come like Leo, Virgo come like the mother, giving birth to that man child, which is Libra, which is the balanced ruler, which is the same Tahuti, the same Melchizedek, the high priest, you know, which I see as, you know, that are still, you know, to a certain extent on an astronomical level. You know, I wanted to read a couple things, you know, if you all wouldn't mind. I wanted to read on the astronomy on page 108 of The Course of African Philosophy, Message to the People by the Honorable Prophet, where he speaks of astronomy and the importance of astronomy, of we getting to understand the universe and learning about the universe. And even in his speech also, where he has that 17-minute speech where he speaks of after we had already fathomed the stars and, you know, reduced the heavenly bodies down to the calculus, meaning even the calculations of the heavens, meaning the distance and all this, these things were already before the Europeans came around, you know. So when you study the Tehuti and Enoch also, it's like the whole story on Tehuti and Enoch is like astronomical stories when you understand astrology and astronomy, right? So in other words, linking the characters together, like the Enoch, you could see Enoch. If you read in the books of Enoch, you could also see the link with Enoch with the moon, like I was saying with Tehuti. And even the name, the Prophet Mani, which is the same Uncle Mani to me, which is still King Emmanuel, you know. So, and that name, Mani, the Uncle Mani, Prophet Mani, is the same name, Mani. You could see it throughout the cultures. In Persia, there's that character, which is Prophet Mani. And then even the dates the characters were born on is like Prophet Mani was born on in AD 216 AD. Yes, if I'm right, yeah, I'm right. 216 AD. 216 is like if you understand the secret geometric numbers, because all that is part of astronomy. We have the harmonious number, which is what they say, which is the frequency that the white world took us out of, which is the 442 megahertz, you know, vibration and frequency of the music, you know, why we know the drum sound and the beating of the drums and the clapping of our hands and the singing is that only natural music we have right now, you know, vibrating on that 442 frequency, you know, which could bring somebody's DNA and everything back to normal, you know, if we understand it to a certain extent. So using these numbers, 442 is like 216, which is the same 216 is like half of the 442. So the diameter of the moon, I know I'm saying a lot, you know, and it's kind of, some of them is like far-fetched, but is the heavenly calculus, you know, not my fault. That's what I'm studying right now. So, you know, the moon, the diameter of the moon is 2,160 kilometers or miles. Yeah, miles in length, right? Which is the same 216, because 0 come like, you know, the nothingness. And I'm just saying, and Prophet Mani was a real person in the Norse theology, which is Greek theology, because, you know, it feels Saul and Mani is like husband and wife in the Norse theology. And Saul, you know, Saul represents the sun. It's just like Holy Bible. The word holy is also holy means the sun too. So it's a sun book. We really, what we read in the Bible is also a sun book. So it's astronomy right there. And then I gave the days of the movements, just taking everything. I'll give a conclusion. I know I'm going everywhere, but it's important. The moon, I did that in the group. I gave the numbers, like in the heavens, the movement of the moon is the 27 days. On earth is 28 days. So the 27 and 28 is like interchangeable, right? The 20, and I linked the 28 and the 27 to the Psalms reading. If you check our Psalms reading, when we read our Psalms, like 4 Psalms, you know, after we do the 4 Psalms, it's like 28 Psalms. And it's just the same sequence to me in our Psalms reading, with the movements of the moon and even the sun also. So the number 27 now and 28 could be seen in also the Bible when it comes to the creation of the the three creations we see in Genesis, in Genesis, it's all on chapter 2, with the creation with God breathing into the nostrils of the first two people, which was Genesis 2, verse 7, which is the same 2 and 7, right? All the creations is like 72, because even putting the 2 behind this thing is like putting them back to front is like 72. And I used that number 72 and the 27 to prove that the number 72 is related to the emperor, you know. So even in the creation of the Bible, from the male and female, if you go and check it out now, you would see all the numbers where the creation is being done is linked to that same 2 and 7. It's either 2 and 7 or 27 or something like that, whether it's the verses or the chapters, right? Connecting it to astronomy, because in Genesis, it speaks about God, you know, coming from the darkness, then the light came and everything. That's exactly how astronomy, when you study astronomy, the first spark, they call it, the first spark of astronomy is like a light coming from the darkness, right? And that light, it's like what people say is the Big Bang and the explosion. But, you know, even on the Dogon's level, the Dogons would say a po. Po is like, you know, like we would say po, like a gunshot, it's like an explosion, po. And that first light came out, and that's what created what we call, you know, what we've seen as the universe is like, is light forces coming through after a certain amount of time, because everything in astronomy is like millions of years, like the creation of, that's why it's good to, when you start understanding astronomy, to me, time, what we see like as time, it gives you a more, I would say, it would give you a better level of understanding of even time, because we in a time where we know we're rushing to do everything, I could see a lot of impatience and everything. But when you understand the amount of time it takes to maybe form a star or form a planet and all these things before these things came about, because these things were there before. If you check Genesis, God created everything before he created man. Like man came like the last beings that the creator created. So if you check, he created the planets, like the solar system and everything first, and all these things came first, and then human beings came after, right? So understanding yes,
if you could conclude.
Yes, I could conclude. So I'm just saying, Tahuti is the father and the inventor of astronomy and geometry, which is the same mathematics and all these shapes and all these things. King Emmanuel referred in our prayers, King Emmanuel, which is Psalm 19. In our creed, we read in the ending of all of our creeds, the ending of the Psalm 19, which is the only astronomical psalm, full astronomical psalm, speaking of the movements of the sun and all these things, and how the heavens declare the glory of the Most High, and day and night it speaks, and it speaks to us and shows us knowledge, right? So where we're saying that conclusion of our creed is from there. That's where King Emmanuel took that, just to link the whole astronomy with King Emmanuel, you know. And even his time on earth, which is 80, it is also linked to, which is the same 5 points that Priest Doggy showed in the forum, is also linked to King Emmanuel, you know. So yes, to just show the link with astronomy of King Emmanuel. And Enoch, the whole story of Enoch it's like an astronomical story. Enoch is like the sun, because he lived for 365 days. Enoch is like a representation of the sun. And we see King Emmanuel as the sun. And when we say sun, we see as both the sun numerologically. I could do it, it would just take me more time to do that. It just take too much time to do that. And you could say physically on earth, you know, just through the whole cycle of everything we're doing. Even the angles of our tabernacle and everything is related to the same numbers, the 216 and all these things. So Yes, Honorable, it's just Lord of the heavens, or Lord of hosts, I would say, is who King Emmanuel is to me. You know, I hope I didn't really go too far and make everybody lost me, you know. Yes.
It's all good, my Lord. Give thanks, you know. We're discussing the origin of the concept and of the individual called Melchizedek.
Right.
We've established, you know, Jehuti, Thoth. We've also established the biblical connection, and now the astronomy, connecting it to the heavens, stars,
which is Libra.
And
yes.
You know, before we move on to the next section of the reasoning, we will leave the floor kind of open, you know, to ask if anyone had anything that they wanted to say regarding the origin of Melchizedek. Yeah, so I see Prophet Winston, you had your hand up, my Lord. If there's something you wanted to add about the origin of Melchizedek.
Thanks again, my Lord, for prophecy and history. Same. I give thanks again for the word of right, my Lord. My Lord, see for the meditation order for when I meditate and it show the cleanliness and the pureness. The man say when you're pure, you go see. You know, the man say when you're pure, you go see. So we have to come see where King Emmanuel live, and we have to see where King Emmanuel did. I see Zion, my Lord. I meditate Zion, I see Zion. I know where the moon and the sun is all about. Jehovah's, the moon, King Emmanuel live inside of the moon, my Lord. People live inside of the moon, you know. Haile Selassie, I say, come greater in spirit, come something you never come before. Jehovah's, I study this order here inside and outside, my Lord. I live in the mountain. That's why I don't move from the mountain unless I have to, my Lord. I study this order, my Lord. And for what King Emmanuel showed me, I pray the eye. When the order, when the altar building, when Jah building the altar, when Melchizedek himself building the altar, Jehovah's through King David and Solomon. Jehovah's them put a piece of, them put life upon the altar, then put truth upon the altar, and then put righteousness upon the altar. But what make our Father come great in this time to show I is I setting this way of life from in creation. It have never been this way before, I in this time here as Bobo Shanti. Bobo Shanti, I come set this liberty, Jehovah as a mankind. I see life created from the water. I know it's Haile Selassie and King Emmanuel. One night I said, Dada, show I how the eye, Jehovah create life, but don't show I the way, the breath, how the eye put the breath into man, but show I
my Lord.
I pray the my Lord. Melchizedek same way. And I see people surrounding, gathering from the water like a vaporized coming up, like people farming. And I see Haile Selassie taking the people them and pass them and to Emmanuel and wherever them carry them. That is when I get to realize water, life started from the water, you know. So this power here now is a power where you have to search within yourself. It's live within yourself. Mankind and womankind, it live within yourself. And once it live within yourself, your eyes are going to behold the glory of King Emmanuel, my Lord. This is my contribute. The 8th, the 7th, and the 8th. Remember the 7th and the 8th, as the Bobo say, the 27th. Remember the 7th and the 8th. Remember the tribe of Israel. Remember in the commandment of the Most, Exodus 20 and 31, where Melchizedek put the Sabbath upon the altar. King Emmanuel is the man who come and put the Sabbath upon the altar, right? Which is the altar creation. So remember in them powers, they were that showing I upon our knees because I Ethiopian and try and Naphtali, the 8th, he show I knees is I strength. If I don't pray, I feel weak during the whole day, you know. So I knees always be I strength. So we have to really go into this thing as Marcus saying now. We have to go more into it, like within ourselves and our soul to find certain powers, my Lord and Empress. Blessed love.
Yes, I give thanks, Joe Winston, for your contribution. You know, now that we've established kind of the background information about Melchizedek, we'd like to transition now to distinguishing between the Levitical priesthood, because Dada said, you know, and you know, even the scripture says thou art, Psalm 110, if I'm not mistaken, says thou art a priest forever after the order of Melchizedek. And then again in Hebrews 7, is mention of Melchizedek and the differentiation, between the Levitical priesthood and the Melchizedek priesthood. So, I'll open it up. Ask Honorable Priest Dougie really to give us some comparison. But I know Honorable Empress Petrona is with us as well, and I would love to hear from her because, actually, no, she's not on right now. But she's one who definitely, speaks a lot about differentiating between the two, because there is a big difference. And I won't say it. I'll just allow, the priest to take the floor now and, say what you have to say, my Lord.
Yeah, blessed my Lord. For some reason, like everybody's, it's sounding low, very low.
Okay. Yeah, the mighty God, even the Lord hath spoken, thou art a priest forever after the order of Melchizedek. The Melchizedek order, just as the Nyabinghi order, is cloaked in mystery to protect the misuse of the magnificent, awesome powers which they generate. Not much is written or disclosed to the world. It is the select membership who is taught the depth of knowledge and the significance of the construct of its principles. The royal order of Ivine priesthood, authored by King Emmanuel the Black Christ, is the resurrection of the ancient order of Melchizedek, an ideal and a value system which is invoked in the children of Rastafari. I and I of African ancestry, Bobo Ashanti. Historically, from biblical times, there has existed much priesthood, some from a tribal level and others from a societal and ethnic level. The two concepts on which the modern religions base their ideology or theology are the Levites of Aaron's bloodline, an order practiced by the ancient Hebrews. And then there is the archaic Melchizedek order of priests with its origins in Africa, but adopted and translated by other ethnicities as well. The Levite priests had to possess the Cohen gene. It's a marker, a gene marker that identifies the Aaronic bloodline. So only through a paternal lineage is a person qualified to minister in the office of the Levi. You have to come from that Aaronic bloodline to be a Levitical priest, is what they're saying. While on the other level, the Melchizedek order of priests are ordained by an oath, wherein a person who is inspired to a higher consciousness and is driven to serve others, then volunteer their lives to the service of God and to the people by an oath. They pledge to walk always in the light of God's truth and to abide by the principles that guide the order, protecting the integrity and assuring the purity of the Levite. Whereby the modern religions of today, such as the Judeo-Christian, Muslim, and Zionist, built their faith from one universal source of information, which is Egypt. The Melchizedek order is the foundation of all modern religions because they embrace the fact that Melchizedek transferred the order to Abraham. And as we know, Abraham is the father of all of those religions. See? So that establishes right there and then, the authenticity and the foundation of the Melchizedek order. And the difference, because there was a research done some time ago by a scientist, I think his last name was Goldfein, genome research, wherein he was trying to identify the percentage of Cohen gene in the Ashkenaz and those Israeli Jews or Jewish people. And he also went into Africa with his research, and he did similar genome research on a Bantu tribe in South Africa, and also Beta Israel, those that that ones know as the Falashas. He found that the Bantu tribe as well as Beta Israel had more percentage of that Cohen gene than the Jews in Israel. Seeing, proving again the authenticity of the origin of the tradition. And when you look back to historical time, you will see that the form of Judaic practices that were done in Ethiopia and in Africa far, outlived modern day interpretation. We practice that form of religious, discipline long before there was a Christianity and a Muslim and a Jew, Zionist, interpretation of the Judaic trad. See? And that is all linked to Melchizedek through Jehuti, through Thoth, because if you know the history of Thoth, the allegory, the story of Thoth was told long before the institutionalization of religion, before man started to coin religion into a curriculum and a teachable mode, when man just lived by his common instinct and understanding of the rules of nature and the laws of life. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you and all that good stuff. So the history of Thoth predated all of that writing, all of that where we come to today. See? And it is known as the foundation of modern religions. See? So I think that covers the bloodline, the way in which the two function. One is by an oath, the Melchizedek levity is by an oath. That's why we embrace the definition of Melchizedek being an ideal and a value system more than basing it on just an individual. See, we are not discounting the individuals who have achieved that discipline over time, and have manifested the works of Christ on behalf of humanity. We're not discounting those individuals, but it is the message and the practice that is of most importance, because the individuals that came with the message didn't come to highlight themselves. They came to highlight the message, because the message is needed at that critical time, just like how it is needed at this critical time, because we are living again in an unprecedented moment. So right now, the understanding of the Melchizedek order is very relevant, and that's why we can tie it into now the levity of the Black Christ, King Emmanuel Charles Edwards, who, little poor man sitting on the side of a hill, 10 miles out of the bloody city, as prophesied by Marcus Garvey, seen establishing his church, where the gates of hell until now could not prevail, where he set a salvation order, that is free to all humankind. Okay, first of all, because salvation is free, but a salvation that encompasses all that we just discussed. The fiery baptism, the refraining from blood sacrifice, wherein King Emmanuel defined it in this way. The animals been paying the price for human sins long enough. Man now need to stand up and be accounted for his own sins. So out of his mercy, he established a priestly order where 7 individuals are mounted on a golden altar. And those individuals have to be without blemish because they now become the sacrificial entities. See, they now, stand up to a lifetime of service representing the atonement for human indiscretion. See, that is the basis and foundation of the Melchizedek order that King Emmanuel Charles Edwards established. And that is how it ties into Thoth and Jehuti, because once saw the fullness and the power and the perfection of the order, because we have not yet defined it fully, because there is what you call the seal of Melchizedek. The seal of Melchizedek is 2 squares intertwined, creating an 8-point star. And those 8 points all have a symbolic meaning, just like the Melchizedek himself is defined as the god of knowledge, the moon god. Seeing all of these definitions are tied into this one man, throughout the different cultures that have embraced it. They have all given similar definitions of the concept. Seeing all portraying some form of purity, some form of structure and order, some form of rebirth, and continuation. Yeah, I'll leave it there for now. Give thanks.
Give thanks, Priest Dougie. Yeah, I find it very interesting, that Melchizedek is such a holy character in the scriptures, but in the whole Old Testament, he's only mentioned very vaguely. You don't hear much about him as a person or what he did, or anything like that. But King Emmanuel came and, established, he said he didn't come to create anything new, but just to bring these things to our remembrance. And, as Priest Dougie just laid out, give thanks that he set up this order that we can find, salvation without having to kill anyone, and Hebrews 5 and Hebrews 5 through Hebrews 7 really talks more about Melchizedek, but it really still doesn't tell you much about Melchizedek, what type of person he was, what he did. It just really shows you that Christ came, after the order of Melchizedek, not his own order, but the order of Melchizedek, to offer himself up for the sins of the world. And, to me, that means a lot, I would say, every individual, I don't think I want to read all of Hebrews 7. A lot of us are familiar with it. If you have time, to the viewers, if you have time, you could take a moment and read and see what they say, about Melchizedek and about the fact that the Levitical priesthood, if it was perfect, if it was working, then there wouldn't be a need for Christ, but Christ came because the Levitical priesthood wasn't perfect, and he had to give himself, to save, to show us really a way to save ourselves, because we don't really interpret it that he, it's a self-save judgment. That's how we know it. That's how he taught us. So by us following the order that he gave us, we can, make ourselves better people and help ourselves and show other people the same thing that he showed us. And this Bobo Ashanti order being a priesthood after the order of Melchizedek is really, in a modern day time, modern dispensation, showing us the anciency, as King Emmanuel said, he had a vision that he is the first Christ. And he said, we, the African people, are the first God and goddess of the earth. So he really just showed us, how in ancient times we had conducted ourselves. Now, moving forward, Well, before I move forward, I would like to open up the floor if there's anyone who has anything that they would like to add, to offer about the difference between the Levitical priesthood and the Melchizedek priesthood. But, if not, we'll move forward into discussing the details of what is the Melchizedek order now. The biblical Melchizedek is a mystery, but King Emmanuel is not really a mystery. He's a real man, and his order is evident, is seen. We can all attend. We can go to a tabernacle on a Sabbath. We can go to a celebration service. We can go any day for Psalms reading and those type of things. So we can see the order and also you can learn the principles of Melchizedek, in real time, So yeah, before we move forward into the present day Melchizedek order, I'll leave it, if anyone has any questions or any comments that they want to say on that particular aspect of the reasoning, the difference between the Levitical priesthood and the Melchizedek priesthood.
My lord, could you like a Winston, my lord?
Mhm.
My lord, I don't think it have any difference, because he is from before and still in this time here, because the man still never come for you over condemn Moses' law, but for fulfill it same way. So I think it's just a balance, same thing, same way. But I think the Levity is how I live within I and I self towards them same way, towards the Holy Child, My lord, more love and strength.
Yes, God, give thanks.
Yeah, and we must remember now that Melchizedek, Christ came to fulfill Melchizedek's way. Because remember now, as you say in Hebrew, and in the Psalms, Christ was ordained a priest after the order of Melchizedek. So that shows that even Christ, being who the allegory says he is, being the Son of God, and being, the chosen, the Messiah, still had to be ordained, under the order of Melchizedek. Him couldn't just be a priest, a self-appointed priest, being the Son of God. It shows the power of the Melchizedek order differently now, in regards to the Levitical priests, because if there wasn't a difference, like the man said, he would not have told us so, see. And there it is plain, the man said that you are a priest after the order of Melchizedek, not after the order of Aaron. Why? Because the man came to stop flesh sacrifice, the burnt sacrifices. That was when it was outdated and done away with, where he, the Christ now, Melchizedek, established himself and his order as the atonement, as the method of atonement for sin, and no longer the burning of flesh upon an altar. See, and so take it again from out of the illusion, because think about the reality of it. They teach us this through religion, so there is no redemption without the shedding of blood. And if we look at the benevolent God that we praise and look at the teachings of God, it don't really, there again is an inconsistency. It don't line up. You understand? You mean say you can't atone through goodness, through good deeds, good ways, good works. Only through drawing blood can we atone, So that's why in this time, I and I follow Melchizedek, the Black Christ, King Emmanuel, because he has defined these things clearer for I and I, that we can see the reality of how it applies to us and not just the illusion of perception, what you think it may do, or what you think it does through blind faith. King Emmanuel define it for I and show I and I the way in which we can have a tangible outcome from our way of life. See? So by standing up, and acknowledging our wrongs and atoning for them, we are able now to receive salvation and redemption. See, that's the order of the Melchizedek order. See, while back then them tell you say from you do a thing and you go, you know, chop off 2 chicken head and run the blood and thing. You're irie, and then you go back tomorrow and do the same thing again. You know, see it. So Melchizedek come define all of that, or redefine all of that for the world, so the world could see clearly. You know, see that King Emmanuel, Melchizedek come do that in this dispensation. That's why we hail him as the Black Christ, because the office of Christ, you know, the principle, that altruistic principle, and that divine way of living, you know, basing life on love instead of judgment, you know, instead of blood, you know, you base it on love, you know, is what the Black Christ come teach you. Because him come teach you this thing, you know, say God is love, let us all love. See, him come teach you again, say love hang all laws and prophet commands upon the face of the earth. The man say love supersede all of that. See, because he himself is the God of love. I and I shepherd. Give thanks.
Rastafari. Give thanks, my Lord. And Honorable Prophet Clarkey is with us, you know. We've been awaiting your presence, my Lord. Please help us, you know, understand. Even right now, we're talking about the differences between the Levitical priesthood and the Melchizedek priesthood, biblically. And that's, you know, one of your strong points, my Lord. So if you could unmute Jack Clarkey and do us all a favor.
Bless the love to the royal family, my Lord and Empress, to your viewers, to the YouTube family. Heart of love to the royal family, my Lord.
Yes, my Lord. Bless the love.
Yes, my Lord. Pardon, yeah, you still, my Lord, you know, at any time I'm coming in still. Yes, my Lord. Well, as we're on the topic concerning the difference of the Levitical priesthood, you know, through the Aaron order, and the difference between the Melchizedek priesthood. Now, the Levitical priesthood through the Aaron order as the priest, the reason it come from a lineage to the sons, you know, at that time, you know, become priests. At that time too, the Levitical order based upon literal sacrifices of animals, you know, without blemish and these things. True, at that time now, the priest had to offer, you know, an offering for himself and then go and offer for the people. We at that time now, they used to use, as I now say, lamb, goat, for peace offering, sin offerings, and these things. Now, at the altar, the atonement is always blood, my Lord. You know, as Christ come back and say, without the shedding of blood, there's no remission of sin. You know, so at this time, you know, through Melchizedek order now, we must know that Melchizedek is the same said Christ, you know, who come and fulfill such order. Now, with the book of Hebrews chapter 1 come back and show we God at sundry times had talked to we through the prophets, but that in these last days he had talked to we through the Son. So we see now Melchizedek in these last days is Christ himself. Now, through he offer himself once, there's no need to offer himself again, like how the Levitical priesthood would have to offer for the self and then for the people. You know, so there's a difference there concerning even the altar order, my Lord, you know, concerning the offering of blood. You know, literal moral law, and then it have the law of the ceremonial order, which is the Melchizedek priesthood, my Lord. You know, so it's a difference. Then now, again, the Melchizedek order is confirmed by an oath. You know, an oath now. You know, not like after the carnal commandments of the Levitical priesthood, my Lord. So this is the different order within, you know, the Aaron order, which is the Levitical priesthood, and the Melchizedek order, which is the order of Christ now, fulfilling King Emmanuel VII. Don't I God, Jah, Rastafari, my Lord, and Empress, you know? Lay the floor open still. Bless the Lord.
Yes, I give thanks, Jack Clarky. Glad to hear from you. Hope all is well and family. Yes, you know, the Black Christ said, give me thy heart, and I'll give you my Father's ever-living kingdom, you know? And that's the oath. We give him our heart. We vow to do his will, and we're blessed, you know? And, you know, moving forward, I would ask Honorable Priest Alonzo to, you know, explain to us. He's going to give us a comparison, really, of the Melchizedek altar and the settings of the tabernacle with, you know, some different African cultures, so we can see the connection to Africa of Melchizedek, because, you know, it's important for African people, Black people, to know and see themselves in all of this. You know, it's not outside of us. This is our thing. All of it originates with us. So, Priest Alonzo, my Lord, if you're still there, if you could
Bless the
unmute.
love.
Yes, bless the love.
Bless the love, royal family, my Lord and Empress, and all the listeners out there. Give thanks for life. So, comparing the similarities of the ancient African Mahat mystery system, the rituals, and Bobo Shanti Melchizedek, we have a lot of different faiths claim to be of the Melchizedek order. So, Bobo Shanti Melchizedek order specifically, you know, the settings of the ceremonial orders and everything. So first, now the ancient African Mahat mystery system, they call it Voodoo or Voodoo in this time, you know, is misunderstood as demon worship and all these things, because they know that was the power we was using to really conquer them, you know, through all the different wars and everything. So now they demonize it and give I Christianity. So the word vu means interception, and du or dawn means unknown, examining or observing the unknown, you know? So it's just misunderstood science. And that's what King Emmanuel come to bring to I, and that's why most people, when they see the settings of the service, you know, even like people from Haiti or different Africans, when they see it, first thing they say, oh, that's a science man or Obia man or whatever like that, because they know the similarities of the ancient African way of worship. So the first thing they do in starting the ceremony, they will sweep around the tabernacle, around the courts, with a Pacific broom, a broom with palm leaves. They could have used straws, they could have used all type of different leaves to sweep, but they use palm leaves specifically. Why they use palm leaves is because the palm leaves carry...
My Lord, I'm not hearing anything.
You get it,
I can hear the
I'm not hearing the program. I have to go come out and then come back in, please.
Yeah, it look like, yeah, because we are hearing, so something with her line.
Go through, priest.
All right, bless. So the palm leaves, now we notice Bobo Shanti used the same leaves to make their broom. And in ancient Africa, broom making with palm leaves date back to like 5,000 BCE. You know, this is the symbol of the handle, the falcon, the phallic, the phallic, and the brush represents, or the palm leaves represent the feminine energy. So they used to use these brooms to sweep out all negativity around the temple, around the courts. They will walk on these palm leaves for fertility, you know, they empress them. You know, they will sweep around the fields, so the crops will grow with palm leaves. That's the power the palm leaves carry. If you notice with the emperor crowning, they had palm leaves waving around him when he was walking through after he done get crowned. You know, the Christians them do Palm Sunday. So it's a significance, it's a significant power behind the palm leaves. That's why Jah used the palm leaves to make the broom and sweep up the tabernacle, sweep out all hags or evil spirits, clear the place, you know? So that's the first thing they do before they start the ritual or the ceremony. And then after that, they'll have a flag bearer to the door of the temple, and the flag bearer will give out a word sound before the ceremony starts. Same way as Bobo Shanti ceremony with the royal guard holding up the banners and giving royal reverence. And the words they'll say, Papa Legba, Uve Baria Pu Nu Pase. That means, daughter God, open up the door so we can pass through. That's what that means. That's in Creole, that's what they say before the starting of the ceremony. Just like in Bobo Shanti, we'll say, royal reverence in the mighty cause of King David, 4 wings, university, earth, sky, and sea. That's the bottom line, give the word out before any ceremony go through. You see it? And then after that, you will have the priests start the ceremonial orders and carry up. They have a certain creed they carry up same way. And then you have the ascend. Ascend means they have a certain tool in their hand before they could even start the service, which is called the ascend or the rattler, which we know as the shakers. So that carry a significant power within the African spiritual practice within the ceremony, because it awakens the ancestors, it call upon the ancestors. That's why they call it a rattle, because the rattlesnake, when you had a rattlesnake through their tail, they have that shh, like the shakers. And they'll put stones or they'll put the vertebra of the snake that calls on the ancestors. Sound, certain sound is a musical instrument. It sends out a vibration. Everything is sound, you know? That's the geometry and all the science behind Melchizedek ceremonial order. It's mathematics, geometry, it's science, you know? Unlike the Christian churches where just anything goes, no order, you know? The man said an order. So you have to understand why he said it, why he did it this way, you know? You can't ignore these symbols, you know? And then you have the drums. They have 3 classical batteries of drums. The largest, which is the mamman, related to the chromosphere. Then we have the middle-sized drum, which is the grandis, which is related to the photosphere. And then you have the smallest drum, the rada bu, the drums that represents the equivalent of all the ancestral atmosphere. So they start off with 3 drums, just like an Iron tabernacle, Bobo Shanti tabernacle, 3 drums, and they represent different elements of nature. And then with Iron, you have the Kete represent the element of lightning, you have the Fonte represent the element of earthquake, you have the bass to represent the elements of thunder. So all these are summons us. You could summon these elements through these instruments. All these are technology, advanced technology that most people take as simple, you know? So once they start off with these drums, they have other drummers that join in. Just like I and we could have 7-piece, 9-piece, you know, to send more power out into the universe, you know, and call on stronger elements, you know, typhoon, tornadoes, all these drums have the power to do that. That's what the ancient African system teach I and them, the powers of the drum, but they have, you know, to call on the elements of the weathers, you know. And then you have a conch shell. Certain hours they blow a conch shell. Same thing with I and them. Certain hours, 6 o'clock in the morning, 12 midday, 6 in the evening, we blow the conch shell. And it's not because it sounds good or you just randomly choose it. The conch shell sends out a certain vibration also. The conch shell is used by the Hindus and the Buddhists. Well, the Hindus said Vishnu used the conch shell to blow creation into existence because of the sound it makes, that sound. So that sound, it clears out the environment, it purifies the environment from evil, and good fortune will enter. That's what they say the power of the conch shell have. Even in Buddhism, they blow the conch shell. So seeing Dada doing this, it's not a coincidence, everything come from I and I. They just take it and they empower their faith with it. But give thanks for the first master teacher, the first scientist, the first anointed one, will come to show us the right way to do it, So I give thanks, for the comparisons, just giving you a little rundown of how the service go, because it could go on, and then they have specific days that they wear certain colors too in the system. On Monday, they'll wear whites, Tuesday, but Wednesday, they'll wear whites, Monday, wear whites, Saturday, they'll wear whites. And I always wonder why Dada choose Monday and Wednesday to wear whites, and if you look at the creation story in Genesis 1 and I think it's 7, you'll see that the second day, which we know as Monday today, Monday in this time, because you have enough different calendars, enough people go through different numbers of days, some call it, 8, some 6, 7, but Jah teach I and I Monday is the second day. So if you look at Genesis, that day is where Jah created the firmament. He created the heavenly bodies, anything that dealing with above. And then you go to the 4th day, which is Wednesday, is when he created the sun, the stars and the galaxies and everything that's work up above. Same way again. So they heavenly creational days where Jah created everything that we can't touch. So it makes sense that Jah chose
Is that my, or is he out?
No, I can't. It's on my end too. I can't hear.
Me too. I ain't heard nothing.
Priest Alonzo.
And he was going very well. I like where he was going with the reason.
Yes, my Lord. Can't hear anything.
Okay, his connection dropped, but
You carry on in the symbolism. He was in that department at the moment. The symbolism of everything. Just like how we hear King Emmanuel the 7, what the 7 signifies. Within the order. As we know, 7 is the completeness. The rest day. Seeing the man say him created the world in 6 days and rested on the 7th day, which is he hallowed and made the Sabbath day. That means he completed his task. So the number 7 is a symbol of completeness. Now, within the Melchizedek order, those 8-pointed, the 8-point star that we spoke of earlier, has its symbolism as well that is attached to the same fullness coming out of what you call a metaphysical realm of understanding. Wherein, yes, we said 7, completeness. 8 would be the first day. The first day is the 8th day, which the first day of every week, again, symbolizes new beginnings, rebirth. So 8 symbolizes new beginnings and rebirth in metaphysics. Just like how the 7 symbolizes completeness. So Melchizedek, every time Melchizedek comes into relevance within creation, when I say relevant, every time the Messiah appears on earth with man, it's because man have gone away from the light into darkness, where evil and wickedness has superseded righteousness and good works. So Melchizedek now is that presence of light and truth that comes now to return people back to that light. See? So every first day of the week, which is the 8th day, we have that chance to do it again. We have that period of grace, as them call it, to get it right, you know, to correct our errors, you know, our sinful ways, as the religious people call it, and, you know, make our way straight. So that's the symbolism of both King Emmanuel VII and Melchizedek, you know, with the symbol of 8. One is completeness, one is rebirth. See? So that's the mercy, you know. That's what Melchizedek symbolizes, mercy. Because rebirth and grace is all concepts attached to being merciful. Your father going to give you a grace period for clean up your room. Or the teacher give you a grace period for finish up some work where you should have turned in from a long time. See, but she's not going to penalize you. That's what it means. You are giving that grace period to do it and get it in. So then everything is all right. See, so Melchizedek, as King Emmanuel, symbolizes mercy, the mercy seat. Because remember now, you know how the fullness going on, along with the throne of God is the mercy seat, along with the throne that Haile Selassie I and Empress Menen sit on. You have the mercy seat, and the mercy seat is very important as well as the throne, because the mercy seat is what the presence of Melchizedek establishes, and the presence of Christ. See, yeah. Priest Alonso, you there back?
But partner, the internet just crashed.
I was just keeping your seat warm for you, my lord. There I can continue.
So what part I left off, because I didn't really notice.
Well,
I don't remember which part I cut off from.
You were saying about Monday and Wednesday wearing white.
Oh yes. So I noticed, because through the studies with the way they reverence certain days, I noticed that they reverence Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday in a more spiritual way than all the other days. So I say daughters do the same thing. So I try to figure out what is the connection between, you know, the Monday and Wednesday, why it's so significant, almost just like the Sabbath. So when I went into Genesis 1, I think verse 7, it said the second day Jah created the firmament, which is the heavens, and divided the water from above and the water beneath. And then on the fourth day, which is Wednesday, he created the sun, the moon, the stars, and the planets. So both of these days were heavenly works, not physical. If you notice the other days, he created like the plants, he created seeds, he created, you know, animals, tangible stuff which you could touch. But that second day and that fourth day, it was work that you can't touch. It was heavenly work, you know. And then you have the Sabbath, the seventh day, which is the rest day, you know. So now it made sense to me that, all right, that's why Jah or I and our ancestors in general will, you know, keep that day as a sacred day, you know, like a heavenly day where they wear whites, because he didn't get dirty. He didn't do no dirty work that day. So you wear whites in your fast. So it, you know, it add up just, you know, through study and understanding why I and our ancestors do certain things. You know, it's not for nothing. It's not just because they choose to do it. Everything has a connection with nature and the universe, you know, because I and them, you know, we're microcosm of the macrocosm. We connected with as above, so below, you know, we are miniature universes. So just like how the universe is, that's us here, down here, you know, as above, so below. So we connected, you know, we connected. Jah hardwire his universal intelligence into item DNA. That's why we could tap into these natural elements so easily, because of that mantlin on us. You know, it's like a bridge for us to go to the spiritual world much easier than the other races. I'm not saying the other races can't get there, but item bridge is much firmer to get there through our melon. You get there much better, you know, connecting with animals and plants and the, you know, celestial beings and everything. And I was saying that a lot will look at it as, oh, you know, that's evil, voodoo's evil and all that, because they don't understand. And, you know, the Europeans then beat that out of us because we use that spiritual science to defeat them. So now they give us religion to dumb us down. So now King Emmanuel come with that same power now to give us that power. You know, he didn't teach us just to worship him or just to worship a being like the other faiths. He teaches us how to be gods and goddess. He gave us the power, you know, he gave us all the tools we need to fashion ourselves as gods and goddesses, where we can hold our power in our hand and do what we please with it. But you have some that abuse their power, you know, they do it for wrong because of certain circumstances, poverty or whatever like that. They use their power to do wrong. Like water, you could drink water or you could use it to drown yourself. That's what you use the power God gave you for. Do you know? Bless it. Yeah, man.
Yes, my Lord, give thanks. Honorable Priest Dougie, if you wanted to continue with the mercy seat reasoning, you were.
Yeah, man, that was a lovely presentation, my brethren.
For sure.
You know, it ties right in with, yeah, man, it ties right in, like you say, with our Father way of life. Dada was known as a science man, you know. That is one thing we must all remember. Most Bobo just come know Dada when he sit up and he's just among the tabernacle. But the people that knew him before, especially the elder races that knew him in his early days, tell you that they knew him as a science man. And so was a lot of the early elders into that level of consciousness as well. It's just that I and I have become so religiousized that we become only Bible students, you know, and that is a deliberacy done by Babylon to keep we in this form, because religion, as interpreted by today's scholars, it makes you docile. It doesn't make you act, you know, it makes you react. It doesn't make you act, you know, see it. So yeah, I just wanted to infuse that. Back to the reasoning of the mercy seat. Melchizedek's presence establishes the mercy seat concept. What is the mercy seat concept? It's a concept on which conflict resolution is built. Where do you think them get those fancy words and titles from that you're hearing today? It's a nice same elders, with them just never call it them thing. Seeing it was called grounding. We call it groundation. You understand? But those at the groundation, that is where we held court. We taught college. We did everything there. You know, when we grounded, that's where we dealt with our what them call housekeeping. See, so the concept of Melchizedek establishes that whole conflict resolution philosophy, because the mercy seat. What is mercy? Mercy is when you are caught in a compromised position, and the person who holds you in that position or found you and have you in that corner, they can exercise a right of punishment, corporal punishment, or they can say, you know, it's just an error, and hopefully you have learned from it and won't do it again, or will be wiser next time, and free you. Seeing some might want atonement, depends on what the infraction is. It might need atonement, and you have to make that atonement, and then you are freed. Seeing that is conflict resolution. See, that's the simple principle. That's where it starts. And it gets more complicated according to the infraction and the need of moderation, you know, for someone to negotiate the circumstance and to judge the circumstance. Like them say, different crime have different time, different consequence. See, but the Melchizedek order brings that into being, because that is what it symbolizes: a new beginning. That means a chance. Give me a chance, officer. Give me a chance, officer. Nobody lock me up for the little split. See, and Melchizedek, no, with the Melchizedek in him, that altruistic voice in him, would say, yeah, man, let go the youth, give the youth a break. See, that is the concept that Melchizedek brings. Not the fire and brimstone business that we hear the preacher man on the pulpit, shouting every whatever day that them praise. See, and tearing down the world with words. Melchizedek come to redeem us, to redeem one's soul from sin and hell and death. That is what Melchizedek come to do. That's why him is the fire god. See, because anything that is made from the purification of fire, say it's solid. Look at silver, brass, gold, anything from that, that is purified in the oven. You see how solid it is. See, so we give thanks for King Emmanuel. His presence established the mercy seat. So what does that say about today? At present time, we are looking at our order in the present time as well. What does that say about our order today in present time? Because most people have not stopped to identify that this is the first time in recorded human history. And remember what I said. I said recorded human history, that man has been without a deity sitting on the throne. It's the first time David's throne have lacked a seed. And without the king on the throne, there is no mercy seat, So the mercy seat has withdrawn itself along with the king. The lawgiver has done his job and withdrawn himself. The mercy seat, along with the lawgiver, has been withdrawn. So when we look today, that's how we can track prophecy and know that prophecy is fulfilling. Like Dada say, this is Dada teaching directly. It's either prophecy or history. And when we look at history, we can say the prophecy fulfilling today from that history, which is chaos on the earth, mayhem, disease, Deuteronomy 28, where him say, I'm going to smite the wicked with all of the curses. And we're seeing all of the curses right now. Them talking about monkeypox, them talking about all kinds of different diseases, which I never hear about or know of in our younger days coming up, or even read about in history, in recent history. So we know, say, prophecy is fulfilling now that the Melchizedek of this dispensation came, established his order, and has withdrawn with the mercy seat. But he left his priest, he left an order. Him say, when him tried, remember, we have to read again the same scriptures where one's hold on John 14. Him say, where him go, we are going to know, and the way that him go, we are going to know. But him going to go, but him not going to leave I and I alone, as prey. Him going to leave we a comforter, even the word of truth. Again, allegorical, again, in a parable form, is I and I must use understanding when we read and decipher. He's leaving the word of truth as a comforter. See, that means that word of truth replaces the mercy seat, Only through the word of truth of the Melchizedek order of levity, now are you going to be able to find the light of truth. Because remember now, it's Melchizedek leads you to the light of truth when you have gone off the path. Today, as we see, mankind is definitely off the path. Look at what is happening on Bobo Hill. And still, you understand, we are not seeing how valuable the Melchizedek order of priests is. Because only through the light of the Melchizedek order of priests can the people find the mercy seat, that when them looking for mercy and bawling out, see it in all of this chaos and mayhem, for mercy, only through the Melchizedek order of priests that presently resides on the earth can they find that. So that is how valuable this order is the order of Melchizedek, seeing that I and I need to pay attention to I and I levity and make sure that we are walking within the principles of Melchizedek, within the order that he has set, that I and I can utilize the power that we're speaking of right now, that Priest Alonso just spoke of within even the voodoo practices. You know, those sciences that Dada knows, that Dada was teaching us, that most of us were afraid of and are still afraid of, that we didn't even engage the man to learn the highest level of science that he could teach. We settled for just the Bible part of it. When, like, I've heard of Dada performing what you call a glass breaking ceremony. I don't have a clue what that is. You know, when I found out what it is, or what got some form of understanding to what it is, an ancient pointed out to Iman that at the Berlin conference, after the Berlin conference, that is what was used to refer to what happened to Africa. The shattered glass syndrome, where they tore Africa apart, seeing, broke it up into borders and from one nation of people to now we are 50 states or 50 nation states, or, you know. So that gave me a basic understanding of what the concept is when I heard that Dada did a broken glass ceremony, see, and shows me the science that Dada knows, the metaphysics that Dada practices, see. That's why he attached numbers, numerals to his name, to his way, King Emmanuel VII, the fifth kingdom of Christ. You know, these are things that we need to understand as priests. The fifth kingdom of Christ, what does that mean? You understand? The reestablishment of God within man as God. That is what the fifth kingdom of Christ symbolizes, you know. When the dominance of God ascends again within man, that means man rises from his base level, from his lowest chakras to his highest heavens, where he's now seeing through his third eye. You understand? So yeah, give thanks.
Give thanks, Priest Dougie and Priest Alonso, for that explanation. You know, the next section of the reasoning, the conclusion, is to bring it up to date. You know, we talked historically and we made comparisons, but what is the ceremonial order? What are, you know, let us define, you know, the different aspects of what makes up Melchizedek's order. You know, these would include Nyabinghi and the different ceremonies, and, you know, the empresses and their part, and, you know, Sabbath keeping. So, you know, let's go into starting with the Nyabinghi order, because that's what Melchizedek came with in this time. You know, all of our celebrations include Nyabinghi order. Every day, Nyabinghi order is a part of the Bobo Ashanti Livity. So, you know, I'll open it up. We don't really have it structured like who's going to say what. So it's just open for the family to discuss, you know. Yeah, so anyone, you know, feel free. You know, I guess it'd be, you know, better if a priest really could touch on this, being that the priests are the ones who really minister the Nyabinghi order. If you could kind of give us some insight for, you know, someone who may not be a Bobo Shanti, you know, give them some explanation. What is the Nyabinghi order? How is it relevant? What does it do for us, etc.?
Bobo?
Yeah. Yes, my lord.
Give thanks. Yes, my lord. Let me try to touch it, and then I'll leave it open for other priests to touch. The Nyabinghi order. You know, we don't know the history already. You know, it come out of Uganda, out of the heart of our mother continent. took the name of an ancient warrior queen who defended her kingdom against, invading colonizers. It's a science, again. It's a science. It's a discipline. It's an order. That means just the name defines how it is built. An order, that means it is structured. There are specific things that you do to achieve certain outcome. Well, King Emmanuel came and he reestablished that order in the Western Hemisphere, along with other elders, because we will not be unrealistic and untruthful in our depiction of I and I reality. Dada had influence on the development of the music and ceremony, but he was not the sole author of it. There were ancient musicians that was their skills. One person in specific is named Ashanti. Ashanti is an ancient elder of the Nyabinghi order, but rose up within the collective when Rastafari was one movement, when it didn't branch out into groups as yet. So he was the founding father of the Nyabinghi music. Why? He was proficient in all genres of drumming, whether it was the Hose, the Burro, or the Komena. He knew all the genres. So when he transitioned from a Whirlian person into Rastafari, he brought that knowledge with him, and being among the elders, being in Bakawal with the Hindu indentured servants that came from East India. Okay. The Hindus in Bakawal influenced the music. They were the ones that brought back and reminded I and I, the Africans, coming out of slavery, the power of our drums. A lot of ones will refuse to accept this because we want to claim all the props. But if you do your research, read the early writings on Rastafari, you will see that the first set of ones who displayed locks in Western Kingston were the Hindus. Okay. The longest locks I ever saw when I was a child was an Hindu at Bakawal, around a Spanish Town Road. Someone that my grandmother back then introduced me to, because she knew him from her neighborhood. So these are realities, and they brought back that concept of the drum. Now, Ashanti was among them. We didn't own a set of drum when Nyabinghi first started when Groundation first started to gather, in Akiwak, Bakawal, Trenchtown. We didn't own a set of drum in the early days. We used to have to lease those drums from the Africans, them who drummed on the plantation, who drummed at the rock breaking slave labor sites them, because they use the drummers now for keep time and all of those things. So they did a lot of burro drumming and those drumming on those slave locations. So Ashanti interfaced with them and was able to lease to drum them for the man them to keep Groundation in a Bakawal. So I'm giving you this history to show you that, yes, the Nyabinghi came up as a collective. It came up amongst Rastafari. That's why it is a general music embraced by all groups. I and I now, we take it to another level because we take it to the highest churchical level, the highest spiritual level. Dada understood the full power of it. Most of the time when you hear man a chant Bingi, it airy. The drum, them is 3 drum and them a play in a certain sequence, yes. But Dada, his King Emmanuel's order of Nyabinghi, if it never line up and precise, Dada not into it. If it play in a certain way and you don't even realize it play in that way, they hear Dada send a man come down, come say, my lord, take up the funda man. Or my lord, tell the bass man, they say, yeah. That was precise. It's a precise order. They want to have to drop a certain way. It has to be played a certain way. It has, and then the ear has to line up with the hymns. The ear of the hymns and choruses has to line up with the music. Now it brings us back to some of the symbolism. Why is Bobo tabernacle square and not round like the Nyabinghi tabernacle them and others, the Native Americans and others, how them build them tabernacle? Most indigenous people build round tabernacles. Okay. And it's not because Dada was a modern day person, because this is from anciency. And he was adamant, because I was there. I wasn't in the conversation, but I was in camp during that time when that conversation took place, where there was a dialogue between Dada and someone's over rebuilding a tabernacle, and they wanted to build it round. And Dada was adamant that he wanted it square for whatever reason. It's later on now when I come understand what metaphysics is and get into all of those things that we understand the concept of what the square symbolizes. When we see even the Melchizedek seal is double square, is two squares intertwined that make it up. The square has a certain flow to it. A round tabernacle scrambles the music because it bounces off the round sides a certain way. So it kind of scrambles the music according to how the science of it is explained to I and I. And the square tabernacle has a constant flow, which if you look at the science of it, yeah, you know, it has a constant flow. Now with the four doors, it also has, the sound has a structured escape route, a balanced escape route. So in the center now, where before we even get to that, the four doors, they symbolize the four poles. You know, North Pole, South Pole, East, West. It symbolizes how the magnetic field of the earth is set up. Now, within that, the center of that magnetic field now sits the band, the three drummers that create that music that we call Nyabinghi, that frequency of music. Now, that frequency of music, when channeled from where they sit, you understand, exiting through the doors in the way that they do, they create a vibration and a wave pattern going, which is science again. Seeing, wherein ones can feel the music a certain way. You know, you feel it, you know. If we had time, I would give a story, but another time, you know, the music has power, has great power in it when it is set up the way it's supposed to set up within the space it's supposed to be, when it is synchronized, when the three drums are synchronized, when the singing is synchronized with the music, the tempo of the music, the volume of the music. It cannot be higher than too high above the singing either. When everything is synchronized with the chanting of the priests who are leading it, the 7 priests on the altar who are leading it, seeing, that generates an energy. Now, it can heal or it can destroy. It's up to the user, how the user is gonna channel it. The man said it is a meditation order. Everyone within the tabernacle, from the 4 gods to all who is inside, when they are all within the one meditation, the one mindset, they're all channeled into that one frequency. That frequency now becomes weaponized, you know, empowered, you know. Now you can use that power for healing. It can be a great healer for ones with different infirmities and different ailments. It can be a destructive weapon where you send it to different regions through meditation, seeing through that spiritual, portal to where you are targeting it. That's why the man says a meditation. Everyone meditating, say we're meditating for freedom. Just like the walls of the wall of Jericho, it must come down, That was that allegory. That was the essence, the meaning of that allegory, We marched around, marched around it 6 times in silence. On the 7th time, in unison, we all hailed out what we hailed out. Now, you have to hail out the right words too, because words is power. So you want to have the full effect of all your power. So you have to know the right words. Seeing that comes from the priest on the altar, chanting the right words, along with the right frequency that the musicians are creating. Seeing with the right tempo that the choir, the singers are creating. And when that is united, you have what we call the Nyabinghi order. Seeing an unstoppable force of power. Give thanks.
Yes, priest, give thanks for that great explanation of the power of the Nyabinghi and some historical context as well. Like I said before, Nyabinghi is a big part of Bobo Ashanti order, and every morning, there's Nyabinghi. During celebrations, there's Nyabinghi. The bass drum is beat every time the Psalms is read 3 times a day. So the drums is a big aspect of Bobo Ashanti and Melchizedek order specifically, because that's the topic, yeah. The Melchizedek order is a ceremonial order. As we say, without the priest, there would be no ceremonial order. There's like I said, Psalms reading 3 times a day, 7 Psalms read by 7 priests. When it's properly attended and kept up. And that's a continual Psalms reading order. It starts obviously with number 1, but then you just read 7 3 times a day, and it doesn't start at number 1 again. It just keeps looping over and over and over right through. And there's I shouldn't say if you're not, but generally we're supposed to pray 3 times a day at least, but 6, 12, and 6 o'clock in the morning, we go down on our knees and we pray facing the east. 12 o'clock midday, we lay on our belly and we pray facing the east. And again, at the down setting, 6 o'clock in the evening, we pray facing the east. And, when we have a celebration, it's not always, but there's been 21 days of Nyabinghi, 7 nights of Nyabinghi. As again, you see the importance of the number 7, and even within, say, the woman's principles, you have the 21 days again, so the 7 again. And just in general, everything has a ceremonial aspect, like even a reasoning has a certain way. It's like Empress Maisie began our reasoning today with stand up for niggas, which she explained to me that's the way the house meeting would open up. And certain psalms are read at certain times. All of these things have certain significance. And King Emmanuel Melchizedek was a very, the way he set it up is very, is nothing is left to chance. Everything is structured, and that says something about Melchizedek to me, that this order, while is a spiritual order and it's not a religion, meaning, everyone is on their own journey. This is a guidelines to help us be a better person, to help us see the God in ourselves and in each other, and build a society where the focus is on godliness. There is, you know, so there's room for in a personal experience, you know, but also it is structured, it is in order. And so every aspect of the order is very much well thought out and intentional, you know. I don't know if I left out anything, you know, regarding the ceremonial order. If there's anything I did leave out, you know, I would love for someone to help me. But I would like to ask also for the Empress's contribution to the Melchizedek order too, because this is the Melchizedek priesthood is a man and woman priesthood. Is not just like in Ethiopia you have monks and they live with only man live there. There's no woman, you know.
Eunuch tribe. A eunuch tribe. It's not a eunuch tribe.
Right. We have families, you know, and we live together with the Empress in the, say, monastery, if you will, where like in other places, other orders, you know, the man would live in one place and the woman would live in another place, and say like you know, what's the word, not, I mean, sex, for lack of a better word. I'm trying to think of the other word still, but sex is something that they would scorn and say is
celibacy.
Yeah, they would be celibate. They would say that sex is like a distraction from godliness and stuff like that, where our principle, where we don't live, if you're living in the camp, you're not living with your wife, your Empress. She has her own gates and you have your own gates, and you're not supposed to be at her gates at certain times. But there is a period where there is a freedom, you know, for you to create a family. Even still, you know, with the 21 days, it wouldn't be excessive, but, you know, there is a freedom to do that if one wants to. So, you know, there's a difference because you don't really see that anywhere else with like a priesthood. Yeah. But yeah, I would ask for, we have Empress Pet with us again. And like I said before, she's someone who, you know, in conversation with her, she mentions Melchizedek a lot, more than most people I know. And making the distinction between the Melchizedek order and the Levitical order in the present day, you know, not necessarily historically speaking, but right now. So I would like for Empress Pet to come and give us a word. And then I would ask for Empress Maisie's input as far as the woman's contribution and you know, role and principles. You know, the two of the elder empresses can kind of help us with that aspect of the reasoning, because it's a man and woman kingdom, and the woman's position, the woman's role, the woman's presence is very much as important as the man, you know. So well, yeah, Empress Pet, if you could please unmute yourself.
Blessed love, my Lord and Empress.
Blessed love, honorable.
Give thanks for life. Ever give thanks for Melchizedek, the Black Christ in flesh, who come to teach I and I how to keep life in a flesh. I will, as my system is likely to go anytime because it's, you know, like that, I will try and be as brief as I can and condense what I have to say, what I have to speak as the Spirit moves I. When I went to Melchizedek's foundation, I was guided by a young Bobo prophet. I was dying and he told me that his father Melchizedek could teach I how to live. I've never read about any books about Melchizedek. I've read the Bible, so I've seen him mentioned in Genesis chapter 14, and I'd also seen him mentioned in Hebrews 7. I'd never studied it, I simply read it. Now I move forward. About a year after I was with the foundation, as was the norm, King Emmanuel Melchizedek sent the word to roll call each morning. And each morning the words were vital. So even if I couldn't get to the whole of roll call, I'd try to get there for the end so that I could hear the words, because those words were food and drink and life. And on this particular morning, the word that the priest gave when he came down from the palace was, the man said, one of the wise, not all the priests them in the place of me. Those were the words of the priest. Now, that was like an earthquake going off in my belly, because I'm in Melchizedek's foundation. I was told this is Melchizedek's order. And here is Melchizedek saying, not all the priests them in the place of him. So who are they? Who are they? Well, end of the roll call, I went to my faithful royal guard who guided me through many difficult situations over the past year. And I said, Honorable Priest, I am confused. The word that I just sent down, I don't know what to do. I don't know. Who are they? This is Melchizedek's foundation. So how is it he's saying that not all the priests them in the place are for him? And the priest, for the first time in the year I'd known him, said, Empress, I might not take that one. Go up to the Father yourself. So in fear and trembling, I went up to the palace. The priest who was ministering came to the door and I said, Blessed love my Lord, I'd like to see the Father. I need to speak with him. He said, what do you want, Empress? I said, well, the word he sent to roll call this morning, I am confused. I need clearance. So the priest said, you can't see him right now. It's not convenient. But wait a moment. I waited. He went in. He was in there inside for about maybe a minute or so. And he came back and he said, Empress, just say you forgot study Hebrews 7. I had read it, but I'd never studied it. So that was his. There was his clearance. That's how he gave me a clearance for studying Hebrews 7 ever since. And each time I open it and get into it, I get more insight. With what I have learned by living the principles that Christ set the Congress, I realized that it was a step-by-step process. I, for years, millennia, I had the Levitical order. I'm studying Hebrews 7 and I'm seeing that there's two different orders and it's no good. It's imperfect. It can't do us any good. So Melchizedek have to come with the original order of life so that I could live. And over the years after that, I watched because I needed to find out who were his priests and who were not his priests. Because he said I'd find out by reading Hebrews 7. And what I learned, am I being heard still?
Yes,
No,
yes, I.
What I learned,
most natural.
What I learned through my meditation, remember, I had never read any books telling me where Melchizedek come from or nothing like that. But I learned through him that when you live his principles, you get inner standing. It opens your inner standing to what he's all about. So his principles is what I live. And I've learned that by watching the priests in the foundation for several years, I realized that most of them were not dealing with Melchizedek's order because they hated the principles. They fought the woman's principles. They tried everything to mash down the 21-day monthly purification principle because they didn't want to keep it. They wanted to have the woman available to them when they wanted her. Priests kicked down empresses' gates and all kind of stuff they were doing that were not in Melchizedek principle. All they were doing was the ceremonial order and ignoring all the principles. That led up to 2017, my battle against this priest breaking the principles, trying to stop me from uplifting the Women's League principles, causing daughters to leave the yard because they wouldn't provide the way Melchizedek had set it so that the daughters could be taken care of. They weren't taking care of the empresses. In fact, they were bullying the empresses. who insisted on principles. And then in 2017, the priest who was most prominent in the yard stood up at a priest reasoning, and declared, "Give thanks for this, the Levitical order." I was outside, I was a ministering angel, so I couldn't go into the reasoning. I was standing by myself outside listening. So I couldn't go in, I couldn't say anything because I wasn't in the reasoning. So 2 days later, I saw the priest on my ministering duties, and I was able to speak to him on a one-way. And I said, "My lord, I think I made a mistake at the reasoning on Tuesday night." He said, "Empress, you're an idiot. What are you talking about?" I said, "The man said, give thanks to the Levitical order." But this is not the Levitical order. I come here to Melchizedek order. Him said, "Empress, you really are an idiot. Of course, a Levitical order. We just call it Melchizedek order." Now that, my lord and empress, led to my being forced out of the foundation. Because this same priest who had said that to me, I had seen him facilitate the breaking up of the principles over the years. I had watched him do it, facilitate it, because he was close to the Father, very close to him while he was there in the flesh. So people started going to him once the Father had transcended from that temple. Once and one would go to this priest who had been his closest ministering angel for guidance. And he would facilitate the principles being broken. People would want to do things their way, and he'd say, "All right, freedom." So the principles just got destroyed. And eventually, when he declared, "Give thanks for this, the Levitical order," that's what it had become, because the principles weren't being kept, and the principles were brought forward by Melchizedek. The ceremonial order, in some form or other, had been there for thousands of years as a part of the Levitical order. The service, the priest, all that had been there for millennia. But the principles were Melchizedek principles. That's what brought the woman into the fullness. Levitical order did not say anything about woman except what she mustn't do, she was there at the convenience of the man. She was simply there to serve the man. She wasn't included in the government or anything. Melchizedek brought the fullness, man and woman. The Women's Freedom Liberation League, which he brought forward, was so that woman could build herself in her world, which is the Empress Quarters, and in that world, it was her world. Just as the ceremonial order was governed by the priest, the purification order, which balanced the ceremonial order and kept it clean and pure, was governed by the woman. But the priests did not want that. They didn't want the woman to have a say. They didn't want the woman to build her world. So they destroyed her principles or forced her to violate them because they were in charge. The priest actually looked at me seriously and told me, "Woman, I've not chatting at this place. A man run things." Right up to 2018, just before I was thrown out of the place, I was being told that by priests. A priest run thing, the woman for just humble. Now, I can only explain things as I feel them, as I have experienced them. And that is how clearly Melchizedek order, which is why the foundation is in such a mess, because Melchizedek order was moved out of the way, and Levitical disorder, which has no principles, it just tells you about going to service, it's just about ceremonial order. All the principles that Levitical order might have had years ago were destroyed. That's why Melchizedek had to come with the original levity of righteousness, the original levity of Christ. He brought that to us in reality, in the flesh, so that we could live it and live. That's how I see the difference. Right now, the Ethiopia-Africa Black International Congress is not Melchizedek order because the principles that Melchizedek brought forward are not being lived. The Melchizedek Sabbath, the double Sabbath from Friday morning, which Melchizedek brought forward in the early 90s, everyone who kept that in the foundation was thrown out because the Levites did not want it. They want their original thing so that they can do as they like, keep no principle, and use the woman as they want her to be used. They're going back to Genesis, man out of man, woman out of man, rib cage as man's servant. That's my reality of 30 years treading Melchizedek order. I live Melchizedek order. And the reason I was asked to go back to the foundation, a priest asked me to come back to the foundation a few weeks ago. And I said, I can't unless Melchizedek order returns to the foundation, because I cannot live in Levitical order, which is what's going on in the foundation, which is why there's so much madness, because Levitical order was imperfect from them times. And it's even worse now. So unless I and I as a Congress, return to Melchizedek order as he set it and guided us like climbing a ladder. He started where we were. We were all wearing Levitical order. All of Christianity is Levitical order, comes from there. The whole of Christianity, words without works, righteous words and unrighteous works, unrighteous living. That's Christianity. That's Levitical. Melchizedek order is words and deeds, living it, not preaching it. Oh yeah, it's all right to preach it as long as you're living it. The principle is a world. He brought us a world, showed us how to build our world, leave the X world and come build our world of right. You can't stay in both of them. That's Levitical madness, trying to call Melchizedek's name while you're not doing his will. That's what's happening to the Congress. That's why we're in such a mess. That's why Bobos are being murdered. Bobos are in all kind of judgment because we've left Melchizedek order. The moment he moved his temple, that temple, out of the way, the ones decided that they didn't need his principles anymore. They can just go to church, dress up and go to church. Didn't matter how they live. Man leave woman's bed and go up an altar. We see that in a Bobo yard. Man leave woman's bed and go up an altar. That's Levitical corruption. And that is what's ruling the foundation at the moment. Levitical corruption, not Melchizedek order. Melchizedek order is about principle. It's a life. It's not a part-time something. It's how you live 24/7, 365. It's a life. It's a world. That's what the man brought us. He brought us the ingredients for building a righteous world. That's what he brought us. Now,
Yes,
I
ma'am.
don't know anything about all the book learning about him and where he did come from, but I know he's the spirit of truth in flesh, creation truth. And what he brought to us was that creation truth. Man and woman in equality and justice. The letter heading says, all human beings, from Article 1 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, all human beings are born free and equal. For years, I've been telling Bobo priest that women are human beings. We are not subordinate things. And that is how Bobo, in general, that is how Bobos treat women. And that is what Melchizedek comes to fix. That is one of the main things he comes to bring forward, that equality. The government is supposed to be run by man and woman. Woman deal with the purification order, man deal with ceremonial order, and together they run the government, which is the life of the people, the everyday liberty. Man and woman in equality and justice. That's what Melchizedek is all about. Balance,
Thanks.
equality, justice, man, woman, living in a righteous world. Okay, he knows we're in hell. I asked him one time about the 21-day monthly purification principle, which almost everyone despised because it means man can't go in upon them woman and make babies as them like. Melchizedek says we are in war. We are fighting for our survival. Our very survival as a people is at stake. And if it means girding our loins, tying a knot in whatever needs a knot in it till we get out of hell, that is what he's given us to do. Lighten our burden. Soldiers need to travel light. need so they but
man.
you're
Empress Pet.
yourself. Enjoy each other.
Empress.
She having bad technical difficulties.
Yeah.
It's
Empress
done.
Pet is breaking up really bad. So I'm gonna call on Empress Maisie, Empress Miriam. If you could kind of give us some insight into what are the principles that she's talking about that, you know, are supposed to govern and how it applies to the woman and the woman's role in the government. And, you know, as she was, you know, kind of meant she toward the end, she started talking about the man and woman and equality governing.
Let's let Mama Maisie give her input as how she sees it.
Yes,
you know.
yes, sir. Mama.
My Lord.
Hey, what's up?
I just blessed love to one and all. I'm here. I'm here just taking in and just laughing to myself and say, you know, everyone of their story and their experience, you know. And the Honorable Empress would have to give hers.
Truly.
While I can just talk about what I live. I'm not going to say that some of her statement is not true, right? They are true. But when I come to the foundation, Majesty, I come to the Melchizedek order. And I did not see no Levite order. At least probably I don't know, probably they were there. But I did not know the difference between the Levites or the Melchizedek then, because I know I come to Melchizedek order, Prince Emmanuel Charles Edwards, the Black Christ in flesh order. And that's what I live to, right? Righteousness of salvation. Okay. Majesty, I'm just talking, I'm giving you a brief rundown of myself when I come to the foundation and the principles that I have learned, you know, and kept and carrying me through over the years until this time. There are two sides, the spiritual order and the principle who's, you know, in the 21 days. First, I'll go with the spiritual order. As an empress come through the gate, the first thing we were taught is to say blessed love. Now we must greet our one another with reverence, right? And remember now, everything we do is coming off of the order of Melchizedek, okay? So that is the first thing I've learned, you know, how to greet my brothers and my sisters with my hand placed on the left side of my breast and say blessed love to one and all. And if you pass a bridge in 100 times, you have to reverence yourself and say blessed love, my Lord and Empress. Every morning when you are free, you get up at 5:30, and that is your first cup of tea in the morning to go to the roll call. The roll call begins at 5:30 with the Psalms reading and then the hour lick for us to pray, right? A reminder of us our time to pray. After that, we gather morning devotion where the hymn sing, you know, Jerusalem, my happy home, then 3 Psalms read, and then the roll call for everyone to answer their name if they're in the foundation or not. When the roll is called up yonder, I'll be there. Then the book read and culture and some chorus sing and the closing hymn, and that is the ending of our morning devotion. After that, when finished, we say greet everyone, blessed love, and so on, and give thanks. We move on to our duties. First, we check the gatehouse, if all is well, because, you know, what we need to know as an empress, you know, and so on and so on. Move from there to the office, check in the office, is everything well? What is our duty? What we are to do today? Are we going out on governmental move? Or, you know, are we working in the office, writing pamphlet and all of that? Then we move to the father courts where we, you know, do our morning chores, taking care of the father palace, taking care of the father garments, and so on and so on. You know, we finish day, and then we move on to the sisters then. We always have a minister and angel to minister to the sisters them who are on free. So we check our minister and angel day by day to say if everything is all right to the sisters then what they need. And so we get what they need for them. And we situate that our sisters who cannot come outside, who, you know, are not able to speak like I and I, we get there whatever they need and they're comfortable, you know, and then we move on to our family. We have those who have a family, you know, we move on to our family, take care of them, take care of their needs, that our children is okay, our king is all right. Remember now, we just have a 7 days freedom with our king. So we have to make sure that our king is all right, you know, in every way, you know, and, you know, so on and so on for the day. You know, if we have to go on the road, the governmental move, we get dressed and we go and we come back in. If we have to return to the tabernacle fasting on Monday, and fast Monday and Wednesday service, we are there. So in the spiritual aspect, the sisters them are ever there. Sometimes we have to do the gatehouse to meet visitors, you know, to invite them in and to tell them about the principle, teach them how to pray and all of that. So we are ever there spiritually, you know, going through the spiritual aspect of the Melchizedek order pertaining to the sisters them, you know, while we are free. We're ever there. We'll wash for brethren, make sure that we, you know, the brethren them are kept clean. Those who are on the universal move, who won't be able to take care of their garments, we are there to help them, you know, and so on and so on. So that is the rule when we are outside without a little more things added together, you know, that is our 7 days of work, you know, going through. The bigger side now, the universal, the university side now is when we separate, when the time has come for I and I, you know, to be on our journey when we say bye to the Congress for another 3 weeks, and it's time for us to separate ourselves, you know, from the congregation and return back into our home, into our yard, where we lock our door, put up our red flag, show the congregation that Empress is not free, you know, she's on her journey. That is a new world, you know, when we are inside. It's a university. I said it's a university by itself. There are much things we have to do. First, we take our first 7 days for ourselves as Empress, and we, you know, take some time to rest, because while we were free, we were running up and down, doing this, doing that. So our goody didn't get the amount of rest that it deserved. But we didn't matter about that because we know we have 20 days to rest ourselves. So we go as hard as we could, you know, to get things done, you know, within the 7 days of freedom. Now,
Mama, you have muted yourself. Unmute, please. Unmute, Mama. Empress Maisie.
I was gonna ask you. Right.
Empress Maisie, you muted yourself. Unmute, please.
Well, I'm waiting. Just call this number. Yeah, this number will ring.
My Lord, pardon me, I'm interrupted by a call from my daughter in America. Very important call too, but I will just say this fast. So as we take the 7 days for ourselves to get our goodie back in line, you know. straighten ourselves, you know, for the first 7 days, where we don't touch any spiritual documents. That is, those days is for I woman, and my God, that is in I, to communicate and to rest up and to, you know, firm up back yourself for the next journey, freedom. After the 7 days, Majesty, the 8th day now as a new beginning, as Priest Dougie had mentioned, every Sunday is a new beginning, naturally, my Lord. We start on our work now. No, this is where now the Negro work, the Proverbs 31, you know, the virtuous woman come in, and Psalms 45 also the Negro works, you know, and so on. We start to do sewing in, and I like with us going and just not do nothing. That's where we work begin, inside, behind the fence. You understand? Universally, and we make things, my Lord. We sew shirt, we make dresses, we crochet, we make mat. We teach too, because our children, we homeschool our children while we are in there. And that's why I say it's a universe by itself, because there are a lot of things we do in there. We culture, you know, we teach with children, especially the princess, them, because they are growing up to be women, you know, so we have to teach them everything pertaining to a woman, right? And lots of stuff we do when we are, you know, away from the congregation, Majesty, when we are behind the gates. Yeah, the amount of work we have done. We try to live the principles or the Father set it, because, you know, it's spiritual and temporal, right? And we try to do what is right. Now, there are some certain times things happen still, Majesty, beyond our control, you know. But God the Father always work it out for us. You see it, and as Sister Pet said, there are a lot of things happen still. But I don't know. She can't just say what she knows. I will say what I live to, right? I live to the Melchizedek order in righteousness. It build high as a woman. Make I even strong today so I can even stand up and really go through my issues, as though I've been going through the pain and agony that I've been going through over the past 3 months. It is the Melchizedek order that keep me firm, keep me strong, you know, that I can even say a few words today. The next thing that the Melchizedek order do for the family, especially my family, was to keep my relationship intact, honorable with my king. You know, for 3 weeks, we haven't seen our king, right? And every time I saw my king, it coming like I met him all over again. You know, there's everything we have to reason upon. We glad to see each other. We have no time to be in any quarrel or any, you know, like you tired of me and me tired. No, it was always longing, loving, waiting to see my king and him too. And the 21 days to build the man spirituality, that, you know, certain things, as you mentioned, him not into it, him just no say, him have to wait on time and build himself firmly that him can go through without that part of your relationship. Because remember, them said that part of your relationship is a big part, you know, within a man and woman, you know, life still. Really? And that keep us strong. That, you know, our love could be just firm until what happened the other day, break the band of me and my king, love. And it is the 21 days principle who make us so firm within ourselves, Majesty. I can go as far as I can go, and I will come back to my king just like how I left, and he will do the same, Majesty. So I give thanks for the Melchizedek order of righteousness within man and woman, you know, seeing kingdom, You understand? The spirituality, you know, the building, you go through and you stand up, see, no matter what I and I go through, we still stand for the Black Christ in flesh, our divine teacher, the Lord of hosts, everything the Father teach us as children. It's just I and I, you know, to take it in, taking the right, let go the wrong. You understand? And just continue on this spiritual journey, you know, that I and I on. Right now, it is on the lowest state, but hear this now. Even though the foundation is what it was today, right? The Father said every man and woman have to save themselves. And every tongue have to sit on his own bottom. Those were the words that I came to the foundation and learning my first few months of living into the foundation, right? Everyone will have to save themselves. So no matter what's happening right now, you know, from you can give a testimony of your life, you know, how you live, spirituality, temporally, you know, see, you know, the tabernacle is there for I and I to go and wash ourselves and cleanse ourselves, you know, in spiritual, you know, singing and clapping and give God thanks, you know, as we go from day to day. That's why the Father said every morning is the roll call morning. If you don't go, you are not strong within that day. Anytime you get up and go to the roll call, Majesty, you are firm within the day. Strength and power, you know, because you go and you cut and clear, you know, see, and you give thanks, you give God thanks gratefully, and asking the Father for mercy, you know, to continue for your brothers and sisters near and far. You know, see, so my Lord, that is, you know, the life that I come to the foundation. And there are enough more, but I'm just going to impart this few minutes. We don't have much time. You know, we give thanks to Dada. We give thanks to the Black Christ who come and teach us of our remembrance, who teach us, you know, the way of life, how we was living back when we were at home, you know, before we were taken out, you know, and beaten and lynched and beaten and all kind of thing happened to I in the Western world. I give greatly for the EABIC, and no matter what, it was good in the beginning, and it will have to come good again. Through I strength and power, Majesty. So I give thanks to the teaching, give thanks to the word, give thanks to the reasoning today. There are so many things that I have learned, you know, even I didn't even know how Melchizedek, I used to tell, we learned that Melchizedek without mother and father. And I was saying that, how could that be? Because I never see any incident where a child is born and there's no mother and father. But just like our priest Dougie, give thanks, my Lord, explain it to her. I said, yes, that is that is the clearance I want to hear too. How Melchizedek, you know, come about. I give thanks, Majesty, you know, for all what's said and done. Glorified through just strength and power, still I say, Jah.
Rastafari.
Give thanks, Mama. Give thanks, Mama. Give thanks, you know.
Give thanks, Mama.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, give thanks. Both empresses give us a lot of insight into the, you know, impact of the Melchizedek order on the Queen.
And we have to face reality, you know, because we can't just paint colorful pictures without the reality. In this life, you have, you know, trials and temptation, and you have good times, you know, you have happy times, you know, then you have sorrow. It's a balance, a duality that was said in one of the presentations too, that the man established that reality of duality in creation, and it's a duality. That's it. So we give thanks for all testimonies towards Melchizedek, because it shows you the realness of the levity, not the pretentiousness or the religious interpretation of it. You're seeing the real live it, see. And you're hearing from different sides to say, well, when it is practiced in its purity, this is what we felt. When it fell from its purity to a next level, this is what we felt.
Mm-hmm.
So now we know the difference between what is going on. So we know what to strive for, what to repair, what to rebuild, and what to hold on to. See. Yeah, give thanks.
Yes, my Lord. Honorable Priest Lamont, my Lord, you wanted to speak?
Blessed greetings, my Lord and Empress. Give thanks, Honorable Host, Honorable Prophet Daniel. Blessed love, my Lord.
Yes,
give thanks for my real first in the reasoning. I am really uplifted, and I've also learned a lot, by the study group, and basically for me, it's basically confirming most of, was already what I had already learned. And, some of the principles that I was holding concerning the Melchizedek order. And as I listened to Empress Pet, and as she spoke about not reading many books, but by living the principle in its purity, it creates that intuitive knowledge that causes us to really fully understand the God in man concept that King Emmanuel has come to teach us, that, righteous man is God in flesh and righteous woman is God in flesh. Because for me, the teaching and the principles of King Emmanuel, the Melchizedek order, has really helped me to see that it's really within you, and it helps me to organize and to really manifest the power that is really needed to create and cause the miracles that life really needs in this time, because the Melchizedek to bring out in me the power of God in man, to know that clean, pure, upright thinking, meditation, and action, will help you to really see and vision, because as priests, if we are moving within that divine order, as Black supremacists, and we are moving with that full understanding, we should be manifesting some amount of divine, what I would say, operation. We should be able to meditate things and to make it happen. We should be able to look at our problems and get together in a collectiveness and fast, pray, meditate, using some amount of pure divine thinking to create, because it's a words create and it destroy. And words are written, words are spoken, and words are thought of, words are meditated. So some of the times things can happen without we even speaking, vocalizing a word. We can think of what we want to happen. And by true meditation and divine living, we can make things happen. There's a saying that say, whatever you will, it can happen. So that is what Melchizedek and King Emmanuel has helped me to realize and to manifest, and that's why, as Priest Dougie say, religion is like a personal thing, because not everyone will experience the same thing in the same, the same thing all the time, and things will not happen in the same way. But according to your line of thought and the meditation and the levity, different ones will, are experience different things, according to the projection of your mind, your meditation, so the man say, you have to hearken unto the meditation, hearken unto your meditation, and really bring out that power. Because what I see lacking in many instances is the lack of the divine operation of the Melchizedek order. It's all well and good we get together and we pray and sing. But when we look at the things that are happening around us, I see where we are lacking in really getting together in a collective. Look at what happened in our headquarters. Look at what happened in South Africa in the past day or so. How are we going to approach it in terms of coming up with an answer, in terms of seeing things happen according to how we desire? Because he said he gives us the desire of our heart. And the desire of our heart will come when we put our minds and thoughts in the right place and in the right thinking to cause to happen the things that we desire. So Melchizedek has really given me that amount of power within myself to manifest and call to being the things that are important and necessary for. As he said, if it's necessary, you can say to the mountain, be moved, and it is moved. It's not to be done in any whimsical, but in the necessity of your life and your sustenance. Mountains must be removed by the necessity that faces you. So my overstanding of the Melchizedek order is that God in man that really makes us manifest the divine things and the things that will make our lives fuller. Holy Emmanuel, excellent. That's all right. My Lord and Empress.
Yes,
Yes,
John.
yeah,
Give
man.
thanks, my Lord.
And
That
that's
is-
a good segue, you know.
It
That's
is.
a good, yeah.
Mhm.
The king priest, you know, the king priest. In priest, Prophet Daniel.
Okay.
Having a
well-
lot of internet issues, so sometimes I chip in and sometimes I chip out.
Well,
Yes, sir.
we heard you clearly, and give thanks for your input, because the internalizing, is really what it's all about. Because that so as you said, man of right is God in flesh, and woman of right is goddess in flesh. So if we can't see God in ourselves, we won't see it nowhere. And yeah, that's a really important aspect of the difference between the Melchizedek priesthood and other priesthoods out there, because most priesthoods come to someone else. But as Dougie was saying, we have to transition because the time is getting long. The one big topic, one big aspect of this topic, is that King Emmanuel is a king and a priest, a king priest, which, that's not really that common in the world. A lot of the kings of the world have just been, kings, and that's it. Nothing to do with a church or righteousness or anything like that. The church stands one side and the king or the government is another. And often, they are both corrupt. But in Melchizedek's kingdom, is a kingdom of righteousness. And I'm not going to talk too long. I just want to introduce really the concept and open it up, for ones and ones to add on. But Bobo Hill is designed to be a righteous kingdom where his, principle governs, and equality and justice for all, and, a universal kitchen, and all of these different principles that's supposed to bring out the best in us. So, I would like for us to really discuss King Emmanuel himself as the king priest, the righteous king, the king of Salem, the king of righteousness, and kind of highlight Dada himself. Yeah. So I'll just kind of open it up, That's my few words on it, but I know we can give it justice and really highlight our Father. And show the world, because everybody who's watching this is not necessarily a Bobo. They might not be a Rastafari. They may not be, they might not really even be into all of this. So it's good if we can just express it as thoroughly and eloquently as possible, and show how King Emmanuel is Melchizedek, being the king of righteousness. Yes, so Empress Pet, you had your hand raised. Was it could you kind of shine some light on this particular aspect of the reasoning?
Blessed love, my Lord. Am I being heard?
Yes, clearly.
You see, I tend to focus my attention more on the liberty brought forward.
Mm-hmm.
That for me is what's important, the liberty. I was at a gathering some months ago, Rastafari gathering. They were Bobos and they were Bingi ones, and you know, and a big reasoning came out. Someone had read.
Pardon me,
in a
my
book.
lord. Honorable, pardon me, my lord. Just a minute, dear Sister Pet. I'm not cutting you. I'm just saying, Priest Daniel, Prophet Daniel, my phone is dying now. So I have to go pardon myself from the meeting, all right?
Okay, give thanks for your presence and your contribution as
My
always.
Lord. Royal.
Guidance and
Blessed love.
protection.
My
Okay,
Lord.
Empress, thanks. What I was saying, at this gathering, there was a big argument going on about where King Emmanuel was born, who his parents were, and big argument was, you know, the way Jamaicans love to make a lot of noise and argue. And someone turned to me and asked, I wasn't saying anything for several minutes. I was just listening, you know, to the cacophony. And someone turned to me and said, Empress Petrona, you lived with King Emmanuel in his foundation. What have you got to say about this? And I said, really, quite frankly, I'm not interested in where King Emmanuel was born. I'm not interested in who his parents were. What I'm interested in, the work that the man has done. That what he brought forward, the blessing he brought to I and I. That's what holds my interest. And then someone said about Hebrews 7, which says, without father, without mother. And then I went into my spiritual heights, and what came out was Hebrews 7, without father, without mother, is talking about the black house of Israelites. Melchizedek cannot be found in the chronology of any of the tribes of Israel because he's not of the house of Israel. He's before Israel ever came into being. So he can't be found in the chronology of Israel. He's way before Israel. He carries that creation memory, the truth. I see Melchizedek as the spirit of creation truth abiding in flesh in order to manifest. And that's where what holds me. The spirit of creation truth, the original livity of I and I, gods and goddess. He carries that. That spirit lives in that flesh. And King Emmanuel Charles Edwards was not the first flesh that carried that truth. That truth is always with us. It's always in a flesh. It cannot die. It's ever there. Israel, when Israel gets into a terrible situation where we're on the verge of destruction, Melchizedek, that spirit manifests in a flesh that is pure, that is ready for that purity. That flesh, that spirit of ever living truth manifests in that flesh that is pure and a perfect heart to manifest the work of redemption. So maybe I'm wrong, but I have never been where Melchizedek come from, the order. Become like Melchizedek, to become Melchizedek within I, because what he comes to give us, we can all be Melchizedek. That's the point. Absorbing that truth, that creation truth, and that livity, which I see as a ladder, which you climb bit by bit. He didn't give us the whole thing at once, you know. He took it, it's like climbing the ladder to the top of the house. And unfortunately, many ones stop before they reach the top. They learn a little bit and then think they know everything, and they stop and block others from journeying. For me, that's what it is. It's a journey into creation truth, which is in all of I and I. He come to teach us how to bring it forth.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said, Emperor. Beautifully said, Emperor. Yeah, man. Beautifully said.
Yes,
Yeah,
give
beautiful.
thanks, Mama.
I'd like to say a little bit more. May I say something else about the king priest? As I understand it through reading and meditating.
The connection
Millennia
is
ago, Israel was originally weird again. The Black African
Speak, Empress. Continue. Speak.
Israelite was originally,
It's going bad.
if we go to the scriptures, we'll see that were originally the priest of the Most High. In the first mention, the priest of the Most High was our guide. And then Israel, mixing up with the nation, decided that they wanted to be ruled by a king, like the nations around them. They weren't happy with the priest of the Most High guiding them. They wanted a king. So they went to a king. The king talked to the Most High and explained to them what having a king would mean. Their sons would be put into the army to fight, and this and that would happen to them. But they still wanted a king, because they wanted.
This is in the book of Samuel.
Very valuable point you bring up.
It's true.
Very valuable point. The conversation, man. That's how the king should get established.
Right. Ever since. And do you know what I was shown through my meditation? Israel is no longer guided by a king. The king became a priest. Haile Selassie I left Ethiopia, and he came to find that flesh which carried to save Israel. Haile Selassie, his Imperial Majesty Haile Selassie, he had to come and find the ancient high priest of the Most High. And thus got the power of the king and the priest. So you see, I and I are so blessed. Haile Selassie handed over to the ancient high priest, because he had
I want to hear what she's saying.
But you know what that says? What she's saying, that's an indictment right there. That's an indictment on the liberty right there. Because if you hand over to the king hand over to the priest hand it over to his priesthood order. What is his priest them doing with it? That is the big question now. That's an indictment right there, and a big question, the $1 million question. Because if we really fully understand what she's saying and not just believe
even
it, but
his majesty forgot. That's why he had to hand over to these people say, and he knew only the high priest of the Most High could do it. Manifest the fullness of themselves. Most of us are not willing to do it. We're not willing to make the sacrifices. We're not.
Yeah, give thanks for everyone's patience, as we go through with the technical difficulties.
But the information is valid, so
yeah,
it's
for sure.
It's not. Everyone talks about the man, the priest, and the woman's principles are trashed and ignored, because the woman is only supposed to be there to serve the man. Melchizedek comes and give her a word so that she could become strong spiritually, regain her spiritual strength, and then able to strengthen the man to build the world of right. That is what the spirits show I. And we need to return to that place. We need to reform the Congress, reset it the way Melchizedek set it, or we're going no place, because we're scattered among the nations, doing what the nations do and going to church on Saturday. That's all we're doing right now. We're not living Melchizedek order. We're not building no new world. We're giving our strength to Babylon and calling Melchizedek's name on it. That's what Morgan meant when he said a Levitical order. We just call it Melchizedek order. And that's why me and him ended up in war.
Yeah, no names, Mama. No names, please. Let us just keep it.
My Lord and Empress, I speak from the heart.
Yeah, you give thanks. You brought a very good point. Let us, allow for some other ones to speak, because the time, we've been on for a good 3.5 hours now. And we have to move,
Give
so
thanks, my
Valid
Lord. I
point,
have
King.
spoken what the Spirit tells me to speak.
yes, I
Yeah,
will give
valid
thanks.
point.
Yeah, give thanks. What you said was, a great perspective and very much a great contribution to the reasoning still. Yeah, I'll turn it over, anyone speaking on what she said, or is King Emmanuel as the king priest, any aspect of that. Before we close, this is probably going to be the last part of the reasoning before, we'll ask if there's any other questions and stuff like that, but we're looking to close up soon. Am I being heard?
Well, the king priest, since no one don't want taken, the king gives the law, the priest is the theologian, is the man that deals with the spiritual matters. When you combine the two of them, you have now a spiritual lawgiver. So he's giving you the divine law. Seeing that supersedes man law. He's giving you an interpretation of what the creator would, establish. So that's the essence of the king priest, which we found encompassed in King Emmanuel. Now, we're not going to become idol worshippers and embellish on the individual. I am pointing to his teachings, because it's the message that the messenger brings that is important to Iman. See, Iman priesthood is not important to anything except the words that I am giving to the world coming from the Black Christ. You understand? And that is what is important. We are passing on the message from the Messiah to the next generation, or that is what we are supposed to be doing as members of the Melchizedek order of priests. See, ministering it according to how King Emmanuel Charles Edwards interpreted it for I and I, because he's the one that are manifold here in the 20th century, that ones and ones could find that path to the light, as we had defined, Melchizedek being one who comes in a time when the people need to be, led towards the light, because we have strayed so far away from the light of truth, embracing fiction and myths and allegories and trying to turn them into reality. So Dada came to explain those as the king priest, give the divine laws. That means he's showing us directly how to save our soul alive. He's not sending us through a third party or through an alley to get to the highway. He's giving us a direct path, you understand, to self-save judgment and justice. Just like Mama Maisie had said when she came to the Congress, that is what she heard. Every tub have to sit down on its own bottom. Well, it's a self-save judgment. That's what the man is saying. Through our levity, as Empress Pet had established in our reasoning, through our levity, it defines who we are. Now, if I'm going to look at the Levitical order of priests as being invalid, I'm not going to look at it as being wrong, because there's nothing in the scriptures that ever said it was wrong. It just became obsolete. So it no longer does what it was supposed to do. So the Melchizedek order, being the purest order established from creation, always maintains that purity. So when it is revived, that purity of knowledge is also revived within I and I. See? So the king priest, he comes and he does that with that divine order, the law and, the interpretation through the Almighty. So it's not just a man's interpretation of the law then, is what we are saying. It's not just don't jaywalk or I'm going to fine you $25 for jaywalking, or, you understand? It's a law now coming from a divine level. If you walk, walk softly, walk with, dignity, walk with honor, with self-pride, things like that, you know. That is what the Melchizedek order comes to teach. Yeah. I'll leave it there. Give thanks.
Yes, my Lord.
Blessed Lord, my Lord.
Honorable.
Honorable priest, as you said, you see the king priest, and I would want to say the God man, because for me, when I look at Melchizedek and King Emmanuel, I see that as a God and as a man, he is bringing to us that you said it's a divine, it's a king giving the law and the divine teaching, and that divine is making us understand that the divine is also in us, not just in him, because King Emmanuel, as we noticed, did not always come and say, I am God, or I am Melchizedek. He lived because he was there with us, and he showed us that as God and as man, although we are suffering the natural pain and hurt and the physicality of man, he still maintained that divinity and still show that the power, the divine power must be radiated from us. When you look at the Levitical priesthood and most of the other ways of worship, God is an entity away from the individual. God is an entity being seen out there that you are you're really praying to, looking to. Now, King Emmanuel, the Melchizedek, the God man, has come to show us that we have to see that source in us. So that helps us now to see when we have done the things that are physically possible, and then we see the challenges that seems to be beyond the human capabilities, then we resort to the divine in us by the assurance of the perfect liberty that we talk about, conscience. So we learn to live so that when you say, oh Lord, I am feeling a pain here, and then now you want to get a relief, he's showing us that this is where you have to have your conscience clear and pure to know that you are going to tell the mountain to remove. You're going to tell the pain to remove. Because I always, and as I said to people, when we talk about the God man, the Melchizedek, the king priest, the man, and when we look at the Christ and the Melchizedek, what makes him different? It was the levity that caused him to do the things that people call miracle. It was the levity that caused him to do the things that people thought were supernatural. And that is what I would love to see us coming to. That levity where we begin to be of more divine help in terms of accomplishing the things that the flesh, the ordinary, is not able to bring to pass. But when you go into the divine meditation, that Melchizedek comes to show us that God man, we too must possess that divinity that we are looking to, that we are seeing in him. So it's not so much about him, it's about a mentality, an idea that this is in us, an ideal. So because when I see King Emmanuel, the first day I look at him, I was quite aware that this is a man sitting right here in front of me. But I was also aware that in him is that amount of divinity that can cause him to cause things to happen beyond the normal human faculty. That is how I see the Melchizedek and King Emmanuel Charles Edwards bringing to us that assurance that the power to cause the so-called miracle and mystery and supernatural is also in us by virtue of a perfect life, of a perfect levity, of speaking right, of doing right, of thinking right, and then we can manifest
transference of a
those kind of divine operation. Yes, my Lord.
Transference of a value system, my Lord. Transference of a value system.
Of a value system.
Again, it come right back to the definition of Melchizedek in its perfection. That is what Dada. Yes, my Lord. Great, great, great analogy there I make. Great, great addition. Love it. Yeah, man.
Yes, I'm in school here right now because you know, we got the elders. I give thanks for, you know, Priest Dougie, Priest Lamont, Empress Pet, Empress Maisie for being here and sharing with us what you have, bringing out what you have inside, you know, because it really does help us, you know, as younger people who didn't get to meet the man to really get more insight. And you know, what you're sharing is not just what you read somewhere, but your own
testimony.
Yeah, your testimony, your own internalization of what this liberty means, and it really is helpful. So thank you all. And you know, the fact that the principles is read every day says a lot, you know, because where else in the world do you have to be at roll call every day and hear principles that's helping you to be a better person yourself? It's for you, but it's also for the sake of the whole community, because everybody has to be good in order for the community to be good. You know, you can't have people just doing whatever they want to do. And it says a lot about Dada, you know, it's not just he didn't bring everybody together and say, you know, free for all, but you have to live by these principles or else you can see your way out, or we'll see you out, you know? Yeah, and it's all to bring out the best in every individual and help us save ourselves, you know? So yeah, I give thanks greatly, you know, for all that's been shared by everyone, you know, especially my elders.
And as you said, Daniel, I just want to include one little point. The fact of why it's important for the Psalms reading to be taking place at the different encampments, wherever we have camps, where we have number, you know, Bobo in numbers, is because, again, we talk about the power of words. You know, we are speaking words into existence. We are sending out frequencies into existence, into the universe, the multiverse, you know, expressing both our adulation of the Creator and the pangs and woes that we face every day. See, the lamentations. So those Psalms reading every day, they are not just for Bobo. As a matter of fact, they are the least for Bobo, because the man don't come for those that are well, you know. He comes for those that are ill. So those Psalms that are read, that vibration that is created, even if there's only the readers of the Psalms there each day, the energy that it creates, the frequency that it develops, and the waves that it sends out is interceding, you know, it is creating an intercession for the world of people's enmities and indiscretions. See, the Christ bearing the burden of the world again, the spotless man being sacrificed for the sins of the world. See, so he does that every day by keeping his order running, keeping the Psalms read in the way it's supposed to be, in the order, seen. So it preserves that, you know, that presence of making sacrifice on behalf of the sins of mankind. Bless.
So true. And Priest Dougie, you know, something else that we don't pay much attention to is the fact that the Psalms each has an effect and has a purpose. Even when David wrote them, David wrote songs of this and that, the songs of Korah. Each psalm was portraying a particular, he was in pain. Because I remember when there was a time when I was crippled for several months. And, you know, many priests used to come and aid me and help me. And I remember one day Kemetic priest came and he brought a psalm from King Emmanuel. He said, you know, just read Psalm 119 every day. And you get your healing. And I did that. And of course, I got my healing. So this, as you said, Priest Dougie, reading the Psalms is important because it's sending out an ocean current of meditation, of thought, of intention. It's not just reading the Psalm because he's reading the Psalms or we're reading Psalms. It's reading the Psalm because it creates an energy, a wavelength of energy that goes out into the whole universe. It may seem simple that we are standing in front of the tabernacle in Bobo Hill, but the effect of what is happening there is far reaching. It's going to the four wings, the four corners of the earth, the entire universe. If you know, because as the man said, he comes for the sick, the prisoner. We are saying this psalm for the saving and for the benefit and the upliftment of the world, of people that he's calling, that we are calling unto this divine, order. So the Psalms, as you said, is really sending out by the power of word and effect that sometimes that is supposed to even create a physical effect upon I and upon the world of as it is. The world of people and the situation as it is. It's intended to correct, to stop the violence, to stop the murder, to create a better life, to create the love, to create the harmony and all that. But it needs to happen with meditation. It's not just going, many priests stand there reading and they are just reciting words because they can read. But is there a serious meditation behind what you are reading?
Exactly.
That's the heart.
If one's them attend like a Native American ceremony or one of the indigenous people's ceremony, and you feel the energy that they generate in what they do. You don't have to be part of it. I'm not saying pointing you to anything. Just I'm a man that I have attended different ceremonies because I need to know. I respect other people's culture. See, so I'm just gonna speak for myself. And in attending several different ceremonies, I have felt the effect of people's ceremony, what they have conjured in the moment and the space. Now, I'm not talking about nothing hocus pocus and nothing supernatural now. I'm just talking about the energy that you feel in that moment, being in that space with the people doing what they are doing. See? And say one's in one side of the world is sending out that same positive frequency that we are sending out from here. And ones in different places are sending it out also. It meets up in the creation and it creates that positive energy that we talk about. Because this is we have to talk about and see this thing as a real entity, a real, reality, Because if we say we are gods and goddesses, what is it? A pet name? Is it a pet name? If it's just a name of endearment? Or is it an entitled name that you acknowledge when you know your power and know how to conjure your power and to use your power and know that together you're just one unit of the power? But individually, you are just one unit of the power. But together, you put that unit with others of likeness, and you create a chain now, a flowing wave of energy, of usable energy that can impact negative energies that is happening. You understand? So when we know our level of power from the inside, what the inner God can do with the outer man, then we would have really, achieved our, what you call highest potential of consciousness, that higher heights that we speak of. Yeah.
Yes. You mentioned, you said hocus, not hocus pocus, but really, when you think about what is hocus pocus, is using words, what they call a spelling, it is not, even though, there's a negative connotation with hocus pocus, it really is a reality, using words creates energy, also using herbs and using the powers of nature, being able to channel it. That's what Dada did, and that's why they call him a science man and sorcerer and all kind of things. But reality is that Melchizedek is a master of words and a master of harnessing the energy that exists. It just exists, it's there, and we all can tap into it. And he teaches us how we can tap into it and use it for our betterment. We can use it, like you said, for destruction. We can use it for creating good vibes, anything we want, and healing each other, healing ourselves. So, I mean, even the hocus pocus really is reality. It's just a matter of understanding, And I know that you didn't. I'm just, clarifying, I guess, that even the hocus pocus.
Nothing. I understand both ways, in our folk culture here on the island, when somebody says hocus pocus, it means something that's not real, something that's a samphire, what we call a samphire, a con. Okay, but I also know what the I means, because in the story of Aladdin and all of that, that whole use of words, like you say, spelling, casting spells comes from the power of words and having the knowledge of that power. So yes, I give thanks. I truly understand, and you don't have to explain a word.
My Lord. Well, yes, family. We're nearing the end of the reasoning today. I don't know if there's any questions that weren't answered or any aspect of the reasoning that anyone felt was left out and really needs to be included. We can have a brief moment, to fill in any gaps. But other than that, I would like to seal up the program for today. I think we've touched a lot of information, and there's a lot to take in. But yeah, give thanks for all said and done thus far. Give thanks for everyone's presence here in the Zoom meeting and those watching on YouTube, right now, presently, and those who will be watching it in the future. Give thanks for your attention, because hopefully these lessons will help us, to be better people, because that's really what it's all about. It's not, we don't do this to exalt ourselves by saying we know a lot and we can tell you this and tell you that. But it's really about making ourselves better, livity, really. As the Empress Pet was saying, it's really the focus is the livity. Not really so much even worshiping anyone, but really seeing the God in ourselves and seeing our own power to do good, and what our goodness, how powerful our goodness can be. I think that's really the essence of what Dada came to show us too. Well, if nothing else, then, I'll ask one of the honorable priests to, give us a prayer to seal up the program, and we'll go on about our day. The Empress Maisie's not here to sing for us, so either Priest Dougie or Priest Lamont. Priest Lamont, maybe I can do it, since, we haven't had you on and we haven't heard your prayer. Priest Dougie opened it, if you don't mind. Yes, my Lord.
Oh, go ahead, my honorable.
Okay, Majesty.
Reverence.
Glory be unto our Father, and to the Son, to the Holy One of creation, as Jah was in the beginning, is now and ever shall be, to world without end. We magnify the order of great and ever living divine teacher, master, king, God, friend, shepherd. We thank you for this group. We thank you for this initiative to study, because you said study to show ourselves approved, a workman rightly dividing the word of truth, and need not be ashamed. We thank you for each and every one here today that has made this a reality. We ask that you guide us, keep us in our 6 days of labor. We ask that you inspire us and give us a vision for the future, that as we meet again, we will continue to uplift and edify ourselves, that the love that is needed to create the unity and the oneness for advancement and development of your kingdom may be fostered. As we say, behold how good and how pleasant it is for us brethren and sistren to dwell together in unity and in love, just like the precious ointment upon the head that runs down to the beard, even Aaron's beard, that went down to the skirt of his garment, as the dew of Hermon, and as the dew that descended upon the mountain of Zion. For there the Lord commanded his blessings, even life and love forevermore. So hail our God, Selassie, Jehovah God, Rastafari, our Almighty God, Rastafari, great and terrible God, Rastafari, is the Almighty God. Jah who seated in Zion and reigned in the hearts of all flesh. With our most high eternal Father, Jehovah God, Rastafari, hear us and bless us, O Lord. Keep and sanctify us all. Cause thine holy face to shine upon us, thy children, that we should be saved and redeemed. Jah, Rastafari.
Rastafari. Oh, give thanks, my Lord, for such wonderful words of life and beauty. Yeah, give thanks, Royal Family, for all, the good contributions to the reasoning today. Yeah, it was, a very enlightening session. Hopefully, the viewers at home will get a lot out of it. And without further ado, this is the African Liberation Network. I'm the host, Honorable Prophet Daniel, and this is the Bobo Ashanti International Study Group. Give thanks again, and until next time, all guidance and protection, and all strength and powers, my Lord and Empress.
Bless you, my Lord. Rastafari.
Power. Yeah,
Rastafari.